November 4th, 2019, Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners work session. Welcome, everyone. First item on our agenda is approval of the work session agenda, which you all have copies before you. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes, and we move to discussion items. First up is capital planning and debt affordability, and I will call on Rodney Harris to introduce our guest.
Good afternoon. I'm going to ask Doug and Andrew Carter to come on up. And prior to them kicking things off, I did want to start with a little bit of context for why we're having the discussion today. And so we'll get this going. So as you know, our community as a whole faces immense capital needs. And so this graphic here demonstrates those needs over the next 10 years. And so we have $381 million is the request from the Board of Education for facilities, another $247 million for county facilities that includes parks, a new human services headquarters, EMS headquarters, et cetera. And then obviously the $110 million for the courthouse. Now, while these needs are significant, we also know that they're going to grow over the next few years. And so this chart here shows the projected population growth for the county from now until 2038. So the current projections have us growing by an additional 81,000 residents, and that is probably on the low end. So confronting these challenges is going to require us to think differently about how we plan for debt and how we develop a model that will help guide our decisions as we move forward. And so we are recommending two changes that would be reflected in the manager's recommended budget for fiscal year 21. The first is the creation of a community investment fund. This is a way of separating our capital expenditures, our debt service, from our general operating budget. This is an approach that is used by many counties and cities across the state. It is highly recommended by the Local Government Commission, and it is also viewed favorably by the rating agencies. The second goes with that, which is developing a debt affordability model. This is to allow us to do scenario planning and forecasting. And so we think both of these approaches would benefit us in the long term and enable us to better plan for the debt that we're facing. So with that, we set out to find a partner to help us in our quest to better refine our capital planning method. And we interviewed multiple consultants, and we ultimately selected DEC Associates to help us with this effort. They are one of the top-ranked firms in the state of North Carolina. They have worked with county clients, including Cumberland, Dare, Forsyth, and Onslow counties. And they've also worked with a number of municipal clients, including Asheville, Charlotte, Greensboro, and Raleigh. So we think their experience will help us to get where we're needing to go. So with that, I will turn things over to Doug to go through a presentation.
Thank you, Rodney. Mr. Chairman, members of the County Commission, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you about a subject that doesn't always keep us awake, but we're going to try to do that when you talk about money. I want to just start by talking a little bit about what will be later in the presentation and give a general introduction to what we're going to talk about. First and foremost, we're going to talk a little bit about your history of financial planning. You've done well in the past. You've certainly experienced rapid growth. You've had many facilities needs. But with all of that happening, the addition of a debt affordability analysis as part of that financial planning seems very important. There are also a number of best practices in order to meet capital needs, and the separation of operating from capital cost is one way to get there, and I'll give more detail on that in a minute. And then, of course, as Rodney just mentioned, a community investment fund is a way to separate capital cost from operating cost and then use that as a planning tool as you move forward into the future, making your priorities and determining how you're going to finance your capital program. There are just a few elements of long-term financial planning that we thought important to mention to you. One, as you well know, it's a roadmap, and it sets a way for you to evaluate your current policies and how they've operated inside that planning roadmap. There are obviously achievement objectives that you want to find out of your financial planning. You want to know how to measure. You want to look at greater financial alternatives as part of that planning. And then it's a way to match needs and priorities. Obviously, planning is a big part of how you maintain your credit, which is extremely high. And then, of course, we all know of the role of the Local Government Commission and how they look at how you conduct your business. Another great part of long-term financial planning is a 5-year CIP. And you guys are certainly not the only county that has a CIP, but there are many who do not. And I think it's applaudable for you to have a real CIP as part of that CIP, not only to look at capital costs, but also to look at operating costs as a result of those new capital priorities. So your 5-year CIP is a way that you're hopefully, as on a cost-efficiently as possible basis, achieve your capital needs. Currently, the courthouse and the middle school, Rodney, which is part of all that cost that we talked about earlier, are already funded by your CIP. What we're going to look at as we go further into this process is the adequacy of your current funding levels. Are there additional needs for funding to meet your capital and operating cost? And then, of course, obviously, there's always a goal to look at this on an affordability basis. How can you afford it both from the standpoint of your revenues, but also how can you afford it from your own credit rating perspectives? And I just mentioned quickly the 4 criteria that people look at from a rating perspective. It's really interesting, and I'll give you the percentages on these. There are 4 criteria that are looked at: the economy, finances, management, and debt. Economy is 30% of that rating, finances are 30%, management is 20%, and debt is 20%. One would probably just think normally that debt would be the biggest percentage. In fact, it is not. It's how you conduct your finances and what the underlying economy is. That's 60% of the rating. Obviously, you're well aware of your locational positives of where you are as part of this metropolitan area and your strategic location and how that is important that's been for your economic development. But also there's a need for adequate capital resources to meet those locational positives as you grow and change. And then ultimately, for long-term financial planning, it's just very important that there's a buy-in in that plan, both by elected as well as management folks. And that's certainly been your rule of the road thus far. Let's talk a little about separating capital and operating. For most counties, in fact, for the vast majority, all of the costs that you know as your larger cost are contained inside the general fund. Your operating cost, your debt service, your pay-go cost, other kinds of things are generally included inside the general fund. And so what happens is there's always changes in these amounts every year. And so as a result of having them inside the general fund, often without really seeing it, capital dollars get moved to operating dollars. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how that works a little bit later. And so as a way to separate capital dollars and hold them constant rather than having them change inside the general fund budget on an annual basis, a number of counties have moved to a method of separating capital from operating inside a capital investment fund. That fund would include all capital-related resources and costs. And the beauty of it is it's a central place where you can go and look at your capital priorities, the affordability of those priorities, which ones have been funded, which ones are yet to be funded in the future, what are the estimated costs for those priorities, things of that nature. This change in this method, and I believe Rodney said earlier that as he spoke to LGC folks at a meeting he was recently in, they have really, I think, caught on to this method and like very much the ability to separate between the operating and the capital sources. And we'll show you graphically, just coming up soon, sort of how that happens and how by separating it you almost automatically build some capacity for the future. So how does a CIF work? I'm going to go through this one pretty quickly. Well, maybe I'll do that. Let me just say, having a CIF creates a separate and clearer means to define your new capital capacities. And I'm going to show you graphically sort of how that works, and it's not so easy to read, unfortunately. But the mechanics of a CIF, as you'll see at the top, are all of the resources that are currently available for capital. And those include the money inside your general fund, your debt service, and your pay-go capital that's included in the general fund. There are school sales taxes that we know all about that have to be separated or that have to be spent specifically for school purposes and are often spent for capital purposes. There's the educational lottery. There's other tax sources that sometimes come in. I know the county commission has made decisions to add some other tax resources to get their capital program done. And then there could be a series of miscellaneous revenues. So all of them flow into this central fund. The blue box to the left is the important one because if you start this method, you would immediately freeze the amount of present debt service allocation you have inside your general fund, and you would freeze that as a contribution to the community investment fund. And by that method, you build capacity into the future. And then out of that CIF fund, you pay debt service, both existing and future. It's hard to read, but I promise you it's up there. And the reason this is important is existing debt service, the way it is structured in North Carolina, it's done on a level principal basis as opposed to a mortgage basis. And all of us know what our mortgage payments are. They're the same for 10 years, 15 years, 20, or 30. The way debt is done in North Carolina with level principal, debt service falls off after the first year. And so after that fall off occurs, or after the debt service becomes less, that builds capacity inside your capital fund as you've moved a consistent amount into the future out of your general fund. So just automatically by some of these methods of moving resources in, you create new capacities into the future. So in addition to the existing debt service and your new debt service, then you would have your CIP, pay-go for general government, you would have your school pay-go projects, you would have technology, major maintenance projects, and the rest. And then what would occur after the flow in and the flow out is the creation of new capacity. And we're just going to show you the face of a financial model that would sort of show you how that works here in just a few minutes. I was educated and raised in Iredell County, so if I'm speaking too fast or not understandably, just let me know that, please. Within the CIF, once you've established it, once you have these resources flowing in and expenses flowing out, you can essentially create a debt affordability model. And essentially what that will say is with the resources that we presently have, and or new resources that we would add in the future, and given existing expenses and expenses that we project for the future, we can determine how you can affordably pay for these. And essentially, you blend your available resources, you look at your needs and priorities, you look at the efficiency of debt structures. And I'll just take a moment here to say we've already discussed with county management, the county finance director, and others, some more efficient ways to look at debt structures for the future. How do you efficiently use the debt dollars that you've issued? And then ultimately, it's an overall statistical analysis. It provides a means for you to look at what is affordable out of this CIF under a miscellaneous number of circumstances, all of those that you want to put forth to look at. And what it includes, in addition to those things that come in and your estimates of expenses out, we look at growth, cost, timing, and various funding structures. And then there's a long look at what-if analysis. How many different ways can you look at perhaps doing this? And we can look at it, if I can get this to move, we can look at it graphically again by saying inside the debt affordability model, as you move towards new capacity on the right, you show your revenues, you have your expenses, and then there are a number of events that affect capacity. And I will just say to you from this graphic, which is a little hard to read, not right now, the first one says projects that move more slowly. And essentially, that's what often happens inside a CIF and in a debt affordability model. You plan for projects and they don't occur as rapidly as you think they are. So if projects come slower, that would necessarily then create new capacity, right? Because you've allocated revenues. Likewise, if a project comes in less costly, that could also impact and give new capacity. If the revenues that come into the model are higher than your projections because you've conservatively done those, as you have debt reduction, that builds new capacity. So essentially, it's a measurement of how much new capacity can come out of what you have shown as your revenues and dedicated inside the CIF, and what you have projected as expenses, and then what comes in new capacity and how you use that new capacity. And in 2 slides, you're going to see the front of sort of how one of these capacity models would work. What I personally think is probably the most important element of the use of a community investment fund and separating that from your general fund is it just massively improves information. First and foremost, it provides a central place to show all of your capital investments, and it separates general and school capital needs. They are separately identified inside the CIF and the affordability model inside the CIF, and that allows you to see how the dedicated school dollars, those that we mentioned on the earlier graphics, sales taxes, the lottery and so forth, how they are used. And likewise, you would be able to identify immediately how many county dollars above and beyond those that are dedicated specifically for schools you are putting into the model, and how many new dollars would be needed into the future as you make other capital investments. It gives you a means to specifically have information and identify when and how much resources are needed as you look at additional debt service, additional pay-go, and any additional operating costs that result as part of these capital investments. It also, I think, just helps you clearly define your priorities, because I have never seen a capital program fully funded. They all have priorities. They all have to be looked at from a timing perspective. They all have to be looked at from what has to come first and in what order do they occur in. It also, I think, from an information perspective, help identify those places where you alter your project priorities. What was the reasoning for altering them and why? And the CIF and the debt affordability model inside the CIF helps you more fully explain that. In some cases, it's because my capacity doesn't come for 3 years or 5 years. And so that's why we've established the priorities and the reasoning for the priorities within it. And then it also helps us, I think, look more fully at cost efficiency strategies and so forth. And then finally, the greatest result, in my opinion, of the Community Investment Fund and the information it provides much greater transparency. The CIF fund is a place you can go and look at all the capital needs, borrowed, pay-go, when they're done, when they're prioritized, how they are affordable, what it costs if you do them more frequently or more rapidly, what it costs if you do them less rapidly. All of that's there, and it just seems to me that that would help communicate the benefits of the community investments. Okay? So with that, I'm just going to turn this over to Andrew and let him talk a little bit about how the debt affordability model puts numbers out in front of you.
We jumped right into this, so I was not able to introduce myself earlier. I'm Andrew Carter, Vice President with DEC Associates. Some might also call me the workhorse of the firm. So we do a lot of these debt affordability models for a number of our clients. And what we have up in front of you right now, and it may be easier to see on a smaller screen or a piece of paper, it is a lot of numbers, is a kind of a representation. This is not anyone's particular model. This is a representation of what the first kind of summary page shows in the full model as we project out into the future. As you see, we always start with revenues. So on the left-hand side, we have values of the penny. That grows based on a particular growth and assumption that we look at 5 or 10-year historicals here in the county. And then we look at the revenue. So in this particular example, about 10.1 million was coming from the general fund. Doug mentioned a general fund number that is frozen coming over every year. In this example, that's what is here. You'll see that continue to not grow into the future. It's a frozen number. We have lottery revenue in here. Currently, we don't project growth in lottery revenues. We all know they kind of come in bouncing a little bit. This has other school revenues. It probably includes both the 40 and 42 sales taxes for schools. And then in this particular instance, they increased by about 2 pennies in fiscal year 10 to add additional resources to this particular model. So that's just an example of additional resources coming on board once they determine their priorities of their projects. Then we look at the expenditure side. We start, of course, with what have you already issued. Debt that is already issued is on the books and must be paid. So we start with that, what has to be out the door. We have pay-go projects as a column. Right now, a number of these columns have sheets in the back that give much more detail. So the pay-go tab on the model would show all the pay-go projects you're looking at doing, and then we just pull the full number up to the summary. So each one of these columns would basically have their own detailed page. We also show, on this particular example, there are some projected school projects and some projected general government projects starting in 2020 and in 2025. You see those are projected into the future. We have to do projections of interest rate, cost, timing. That's the type of stuff that Doug was talking that we can make adjustments. What if analysis? What if the general government project came in 2024, not 2025? We could run a what if analysis of that. So then we get to total debt service or total cost, and then we have a comparison of total revenue to total debt service, which gets us to the very last column, the community investment fund. You'll see that in the very far right-hand column for funds used, in this particular example, they're having to use some fund balance that they had accumulated in previous years to pay for the expenses of that current year, which technically were higher than the revenues that came in. So you'll see in fiscal 16, they had to use approximately $98,000 of their fund balance, and at the end of the year, there was $7.388 still in the Community Improvement Fund, which you see they would have to have used the next couple years in order to make their expenses. So all of this is part of the what-if analysis and the projections into the future as far as affordability. So I know I've gone through this relatively fast. It's a lot of numbers on a screen, but this is just kind of an example of the summary sheet that would bring all the revenues, all the expenses, and then we make projections based on those, and then run our analyses based on your priorities and costs, and can adjust those as needed.
Let me give you a couple of examples for myself based upon the written data earlier. The column that shows previous debt service that was moved out of the general fund, as you see, that amount never changes. It stays constant into the future. Obviously, if debt service goes down, if that money remained in the general fund, it would give general fund dollars. Here, because it's in the capital fund, it gives capital dollars, which gives you the ability to reprogram and reuse those capital dollars. Likewise, when you get to the far right, you accumulate a fund balance inside your community investment fund. And that fund balance can often be used as a way to smooth debt service in early years, so you have resources available to appropriate if you need to smooth the tax impacts of this capital program. So the fact that it's its own separate fund gives you financial capacity inside that fund. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to give you an example of how this happens sometimes, and I'm not recommending this to you. I was born in Surrey County. For any of you who know where that is, it's Elkin and Mount Airy. It's a very pretty area, and we've been their advisor for a number of years. They have a debt affordability model. They've had to make many community investments, primarily in schools, and we will sit down in about 2 weeks with a committee of the county commission with this model on the screen and look at what happens if they add or deduct things in this model and what that means to their need to provide additional revenues. So it's a very integrated model. It sits there. You can make numerous assumptions, and it will feed you the bottom line, for lack of a better term. It will tell you, it will let you know how much more revenue is necessary in order to balance the fund and make sure that the fund balance never goes negative. One other thing I'll show you, and then I'll be through with this, and then I'm going to the last slide, and we'll answer all the questions you have. As you see the debt service column, the next to the last column on the right, as you begin to see that fund balance increase, that means you have built new capacity, right? Revenues are growing faster than expenses, and you can reprogram those revenues into a new capital investment. So it just gives a lot of information on this front sheet. Then I'll go to the last page for now, and then we'll go back to any previous ones and answer whatever questions you have. From a moving forward perspective, what would be needed with respect to the CIF, the Community Investment Fund? A decision, obviously, as to whether you intend to move forward with this method. If so, then you would develop the project priorities, rankings, and timings out of your current CIP, plus all that you would add to the upcoming CIP. We would work together with your county staff and create the CIF debt model that would have all of the data on your existing debt, your existing revenues, what your priorities are in your CIP, and all of that would come back to you as you start looking, Rodney, I suppose in the spring, at your 2021 CIP forward. As part of this also, we've spoken with Susan, and we would also be looking at your current financial policies. That would, if you do the CIF, it would have its own policies, and we would also look at your currently existing county financial policies and determine if there were any recommended changes or adjustments. So one final thing I will say, once you put this in place, it stays there for as long as you want to keep it, presumably forever, and provides you a basis upon which, if not more frequently, at least annually as part of the CIP budget, you'll be looking at your community investment fund and how it's affordable, how you can affordably move forward in the future with new projects. I almost made 20 minutes.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Doug, does the CIF that we're talking about, does that do away with our current CIP program? Or do they correlate together, or how does that work?
They correlate. Essentially, the CIP provides you the ongoing priority definition, the projects that you want to invest in, on what timing. That really becomes the cost side, together with operating costs that'll come forward to you. So no, it's really the CIP feeds the CIF with the data it needs in terms of future and how the fund would operate into the future and how you would have to make changes in that fund to afford those projects at the time period that's inside your CIP. Correlate was the word you used. That's the right word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, other questions or comments?
Thank you for presenting this. I guess I mean, if the first line is move forward with a question mark, obviously the five of us, you're looking for some sort of direction.
That's correct.
I guess I'd like to hear from staff that
Sure.
are going to have to deal with this on a daily basis. No offense to you guys, but you're selling a product, and the people that, the end user, I would like to hear from.
Right. Rodney, you want to start or you want me to start? Me? Is that what you said? Yeah. I think, as you guys, your budgets are getting tighter and tighter, your capital needs are getting tighter, or are getting larger, and not only are you getting the request to have them, you're getting the request to move them up quicker and group 2 or 3, 4 large ones at the same time. This will allow us to track the projects, but also track the available money at the same time. And then as your capacity grows, then you can start plugging those projects in. If you're getting requests, whether it's the schools, whether it's staff, our departments, requesting these projects to come on before you have capacity, then you have in front of you, have the information you need in front, say, we can't do it. We can't do it unless we pull in some additional funds from outside, which means taxes or other revenues that we're finding. So this will help you and help you tell those that depend on us for funding that these are the schedules that we're going to have to stick with. And it's a way to track both sides of the equation, as you said, the projects we need and our available cash. And then the other thing too, as they said, it's a separate fund. It's going to continue to feed itself through our budget, our annual budget, but it's going to put that money into that capital reserve, and it's never going to cross over. Now what happens is as our debt comes off, we're taking that money because we're trying to balance that budget and keep moving. So we're not leaving that capital, those debt payments, we're not leaving them on the cash flow side. We're taking that money that's available and moving it directly into operational or capital or back and forth, because we've been trying to keep these budgets balanced for so long. But this is a tool that will allow us and you to see how that's working. Of course, it's flexible enough to make those changes, but you're going to see that you're not going to want to make those changes because you need to keep feeding that capital side because we have so many demands.
Mike, is this going to require an initial budget item to fund the the community investment fund? Do we fund it originally, or how, what?
You're going to
where
fund it
does-
with the money you already have to
Okay.
start with, and then you'll have to start consciously budgeting to fund it in the
Or
future.
it'll be another budget item, then hypothetically, $1 million a year, $2 million a
It
year,
could be,
something
yeah.
like that, yeah.
And you're already doing that now, but it's all going into the operational side with
Right.
debt payments. This time, you're going to take that money that's going into the operational side and consciously move it over onto the capital side and keep it away from the operation, and thus the temptation of using it on operational or current expense money.
One more question. The amount that we have usually left over, if things go like we hope,
Mhm.
lower expenses, higher revenue, whatever, now we transfer to the capital reserve fund. Will that go away, or do we still
You
have
could
that
still-
capital
You could still
reserve?
pump it. You could still move it right into there.
And these funds, will that come from operations, or will it come from the capital reserve funds for the community investment fund?
Which funds?
The capital investment funds, will that come from the general fund, or will it come from the capital reserve fund?
I'll let you guys answer how you're proposing to structure that, but it's all the same money, whether
Sure,
which money, so
I-
you're just
yeah.
splitting it up instead of sending it into one fund.
Right,
Sure.
right,
I'm just trying to follow the direction
Sure,
of where
yeah.
where the money goes.
right.
We would first look at the general fund and see what you have budgeted inside the general fund for capital now. We would look to see where your sales tax dollars that goes for schools are. We would look for all of the resources that we talked about earlier on the graphic, to find where they are now, and they would flow in from those sources annually into the CIF fund, and would remain there, and you would build a fund balance, hopefully, based upon the operation of that fund, and that fund balance would be available for future capital as you saw fit. Mr. Chairman, could I make one final comment?
Absolutely.
Great observation in terms of what we're looking at, and this is a product. I want to give this to your staff, as you will own your CIF, you will own the debt affordability model that's part of all of that. But this is actually a concept that your staff had been thinking of. They reached out to us and to others to say, come in and talk to us about how we look at methods to properly fund and separate capital from operations. So while we're now your advisor and we're selling you on a concept, to be honest and straightforward, that started with your staff as they looked at what are the means that we can best separate and in a more full extent make disclosure to you so that you can make better decisions. So it really started here.
Yeah, I think one good thing that's going to help us and help us to help you more is right now, everything we're building, we're prioritizing schools, which is not a bad thing. But when we prioritize the schools, we're pushing all of our projects out. And what's happening now, we're 3-4 libraries behind, we're parks behind, we got 2 and 3 phases in different parks that need to be built. So we're trying to put them both on the same playing field as much as possible so that you can see, and you can adjust if you need based on our capacity. But I think if you guys are in favor of this. We are moving in a good direction. This will be good for staff, and it will be good for you as well.
I'm good with it. And I think it'll be good for the community as well,
And-
from what you said about the transparency part.
Right.
They'll see more where it's going, the challenges that we're facing, and the decisions that have to be made based on where we are. A little more clearer maybe than it has been.
Right.
One last question. Sorry, I think you touched on this before, when we've had to move funds to try to keep a balance. You know, if you boil things down to your own personal, with the way you do things, if I've got funds that I will only dedicate to X, well, then when I get sideways over here, that limits flexibility. So if I know that I can't spend this and I've got something to do over here and can't touch it, well, you know, whether it's a mortgage or your car breaks or whatever, but I can't use this money to fix that because I've said I wasn't going to do it. So I guess just assure me that we're not tying our hands in some way that we're going to regret later, because it sounds like we've had to rely on that flexibility, and I know we have because the needs keep growing. So just go through that one last time so that we're comfortable that when that happens in the future, that the only option is not to be, well, you know, we just need to kick in another penny over here because we've got to fund this.
The options are, again, additional money or time to push it out until we do have the capacity. And hopefully both sides of the equation, the current expense side and the capital side, are going to create their own fund balances, hopefully. So you'll have some flexibilities for emergencies if you need it. You can reprioritize based on your capacities as well, on the capacities, meaning funds available, or funds available to go out to the debt. So you'll still have some flexibility. So, but you want to use the tool as much as possible so you don't overextend. Does that make sense to you?
I think the only thing I would add is this fund would be managed by policy, and that is a policy that the board would establish. And so whatever target you set for, let's say, property tax revenue that's going to go into the fund, you can always change that. So if circumstances change, if there's a recession, you would be able to go back in and modify that amount as long as we had sufficient revenue to cover current debt service. So you do still maintain that flexibility.
Okay. Does that make sense?
And that does make
Yeah, I mean,
sense.
If you're going 10 million a year in the capital reserve, and you think, you know, you're starting to build a fund balance up, and you don't see a whole lot of progress on the horizon, then you would definitely want to reduce that down and start pushing it over the current expense side.
Gotcha. And one last question, and you said you used the term forever. Boy, in county government, I'm not sure there's anything that would equate to forever. Obviously, every 2 years, you can have new faces sitting here that
Surely.
they don't have to keep going. They may not want to keep going. In your experience, because you listed several counties, have you had a good track record of being able to buy in and keep moving forward when they're, you know, obviously they're not required to, but just touch on that briefly if you would.
Absolutely. The first county that we did a CIF with was 15 years ago, and it was the county of Chatham. I don't know if you know County of Chatham, but it's below Orange County and to the side of Wake County, and has, like you, enormous growth needs. They put this in 15 years ago. You won't believe how many iterations of the model that have been looked at. They had a high school in that model 15 years ago that cost $40 million. When they actually did the high school, it cost $75 million. My point to all of that is they have used the model consistently. They've used it in time periods where revenues weren't as robust as they were in some other years. All the counties that were listed, in fact, the majority of our clients use this method. They've basically never departed from it. They've used it consistently. They have had to make decisions from time to time on how much to dedicate to the fund, but they have not abandoned the concept of saying capital resources need to be set aside from operating resources. That is particularly true for counties like Cabarrus that is just going to have growth for a long, long, long time, which is why I said the forever word. I'm also an optimist, so it just comes to my mind.
I find it extremely attractive. I think that I don't see anything restrictive at all about it, as he just explained. You know, this board establishes the policies and can change them at any time. And I think there are times in the past when the you know, our policy as to contribution to the Capital Reserve Fund during the Great Recession, that was rescinded or placed on hold for several years, if I'm correct. You know, so hopefully we don't have to look at that again. But, you know, I look at it as a sort of a self-policing, kind of like you would handle your own personal budget at home. You know, if you make your own personal decision as to what you might want to put aside to build a garage, to remodel your house, that sort of thing. And of course, that sort of gives us a goal to strive for. You know, if you hit a bump in the road, you might have to adjust that, just the same as you would with your personal finances. But I think the thing that I find most attractive about it is, as county manager stated, we have so many people coming to us wanting funds for a variety of different purposes, all of which are extremely worthwhile, all of things I think we probably would all agree that we would like to do. And so when we have to say we're not in a position to do that right now, this gives us a little bit more understandable, clearer picture that we can share with the public as well, the reason that we can't do that right now. And we can detail those things. And I particularly like the what if capability, you know, to plug in new projects and say, well, you know, okay, if we did this right now or next year, and we plug that in, then that's how it's going to impact these other things. And so I think it makes it a lot more understandable, a lot more transparent to the public, and quite frankly helps us in our decision-making process rather than, and of course I don't think we make any decision on hunches or guesses, but this really puts a little meat to some of the decisions that we make, and gives us the ability to explain it to other people as well. The one thing that I think I disagree with is the population growth projections. You know, based on what we've experienced over the past few years, I've made the comment to several people just in the last couple weeks that based on the percentages over the last few years, we have the potential to grow by 100,000 people in the next 10 years. I mean, that is a really short period of time, and that's a huge population growth. But I think there was an article in the paper just this past week stating Cabarrus County was one of the top 10 fastest growing counties in the state of North Carolina. And so if we do grow at that rate, and we look at school capacity and the number of children that could potentially come with that, you know, we've got some pretty big challenges in front of us. And I say schools because that's a real clear example, because, you know, as I've said before, you know, you can't just, when it comes to schools, you can't just say, well, we're going to put your desk in the parking lot until we get this building built. You know, you have to plan for that. But I think the same thing goes for libraries and parks and all the other things that our surveys consistently tell us that our citizens, our taxpayers, think are important. You know, the public safety piece of that goes right along with it. You know, as you have increased population, there are increased demands in every area. So I really like the only thing when we talk about it, talking about creating additional capacity here and there, you know, it almost makes you think we're creating additional new money, and we're not. It's not going to create any new revenue, but I think it really gives us the ability to manage it a lot more sensibly and effectively, and in ways that we can explain to the public why we do the things that we do. So my vote would be yes to move forward with the CIF and begin that process. And I see a few heads shaking yes. Commissioner Poole.
Sorry to interrupt you. I did
Not
want
at
to
all.
make a comment, and I appreciate, especially I think about the last sentence that you said. I would like to say thank you to Susan Farrington and everyone in your department, and thank you to former Deputy County Manager Pam Dubois and everybody that works in finance, because having been here long enough, we've been doing this. It might not be an accounting function to separate it, but every budget with every 5-year plan, there is an explanation of the capital amount that is decreasing. There's loads of explanations on how funds are going to be moved. This is not going to create any more money. It is just going to make it, I don't want to say, budget process is extremely tedious. After a while, after a number of years of going through the budget process, it becomes much more easier to understand. And I would say maybe at this point in time, I feel like we are being transparent, but I also know that if you pull up the document without a good explanation, if you have not been involved in the process, you might not understand all the nuances of it. But I do want to make sure that all of the staff who work on the budget, all of the staff that work on the finances, and I especially want to call out Susan and everybody that works so hard on that, they are doing all of these things. It is, I think, another accounting tool that will be used primarily with people who are not as informed and into the minutia of what happens with a county budget. When we have debt service that is retired, the county manager and the finance staff has always been quick to say, this is some money available, or capacity is the term you used, that we can use for this project. So we have been doing all this. It's just we haven't used a separate accounting function that we can print a report from and hand to somebody that's going to be easier to understand. And you mentioned that at the very end of your comments. And I think that is very important for our staff members to understand and the public to understand what an excellent job that our employees have been doing all these very many years with a very complicated budget and a very complicated process. Thank you. And it's perfectly fine with me to move forward with the accounting function, is what I look at this as being simply an accounting function.
Right. Well, based on the head nods that I see, I think we have consensus to move forward with this plan. So are there any additional questions or comments? Rodney, did we give you what you need? Excellent. Thank you very much. We appreciate you being with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we move now to item 3.2 from Infrastructure and Asset Management, Courthouse Expansion Project Update. Kyle Billifer is going to tell us how we're doing on the one project that's having a major impact on the discussion we just completed.
So it's been a while since I've been back up in front of the board, so just wanted to kind of give you an update of where we are. Last Friday, we did the 85% schematic design prints were presented to the owner and to the construction manager at risk, Messer. They had already seen them, obviously. Over the past few weeks, Messer Construction and Silling have been spending a lot of time together going through those, but one of the milestones that is a requirement of our design contract with Silling is an 85% schematic design. So that's pretty much about 1.5 inches of blueprints that goes through what the exterior will be, what the structural will be, and how that all kind of pans out. And what that 85% schematic design is used for is to get our first measuring stick of what our GMPs will be. So it's basically like licking your finger and putting it up in the air and seeing which way the wind is blowing. So this 85% schematic design allows Messer to start drilling down and kind of taking some of the contingencies out and actually drilling down into the GMP to make sure that we're in line with the prices that we've forecasted. So that's kind of where we are. We actually are probably a little bit ahead of 85% schematic design. So that kind of allows us to fall in to getting with actual interior finishes and getting down into the weeds of what type of materials are going to be used. Some of the things that are still missing are, we don't know where all the ductwork is going to go, where all the electric. We have actual narratives that's written on that. So we know where big things like our generator and our chillers will sit for the building, but we don't know specifically how they'll all run and how many pumps are associated to them. So that those gaps for Messer are filled in by our engineers and our designers and staff. They're filled in with narratives, so long 15-page documents that explain how we want the building to run, how we want the systems to run, things that we've had good experience with, and that allows Messer to go out and put those prices on those. So that was a big milestone to get through that, and both Silling and Messer did a great job on that. We've also continued our meetings about the public plaza with different stakeholders in that. We're kind of focusing on what the programming expectations are of the public plaza and what type of open space and design they want to see in terms of actually looking at how large do certain spaces need to be for those type of expected functions that are going on in that public plaza. So those have been a lot of the meetings that we have. We are continuing to have meetings with the actual users of the space, but those are actually becoming much more drilled down. So now, rather than figuring out how they're going to get certain paperwork from one level to another level or what type of secure passageway, we're really starting to talk about actual line of sight of courtrooms and things like that. And in the next month, we will begin building our 2 mock courtrooms. So those will be housed in one of our facilities, and we will actually build 2 mock courtrooms, not out of the same type of materials that you would build a courtroom, much cheaper, out of plywood. And we will actually bring in the staff that utilizes those on a daily basis. So your judges, your DAs, your public defenders, your court reporters, courthouse security, all of those folks will be in there, and they will have a chance to go through those different mock-ups. So we have 2 different types of courtrooms, meaning they're actually created differently based on district and superior, and those 2 will be in there, and all of those folks will be able to sit in there and understand line of sight and where the different technology devices will be and how they will be able to stand in front of the jury box and show them that TV or show them that evidence, and how the court reporter will be able to see people's mouths when they move, and where the judge will be. So all of that will be laid out, which that's one of the big, the contentious points when you're designing a courtroom is obviously you've got a lot of entities that are, need to function in that courtroom and to be to their different advantages. So that'll be a big part of that. So we'll build those out. That's part of the pre-construction services contract that we have with Messer Construction and Lyles. We'll build those out. We'll bring those groups out, walk them through those layouts, and once they're approved, that'll go into the actual design drawings and then the construction drawings. So the next time that I'll be up in front of the board, we'll probably be starting to talk about the exterior. As you know, you've all seen the renderings of the exterior of the building, and I'll be starting to bring in actual materials that we're thinking about on using, so actual physical samples. We'll be traveling out to some of the locations that use these type of materials, because a lot of the stuff that we are looking at would probably be easy to say would be different for this area, a little bit more probably modern. And we will be going out and meeting with different people that work in the infrastructure and asset management groups at these buildings, so we can ascertain operating expenses, total cost of ownership of those type of materials. And we'll be actually bringing samples in and showing that and showing you some more exposed building elevations so you will understand what the building will look like. And as we move forward in the next few months, once staff has some more chances to explain, we'll be coming and talking to you about public art. We've had some initial discussions. We've got 2 different types of components of art in the building. We need to be thinking about all the different portraits we have of all the different folks that have run through the judicial system, and we're lacking in some of that. Most courthouses, like ours, would have portraits of all of the previous superior court judges. We do not have that. We only have them of 2. So there's some decisions that the board will need to make if we want to move forward with funding those type of increasing, getting those other portraits in place, getting those made, and we have prices. We've already worked with the Arts Council on what that would take. And then we also need to have some discussion about basically going in and conserving some of the portraits we already have, which some of them are housed in different locations in the courthouse. Some of them are housed in storage closets. Some of them are housed at the historic courthouse. But a lot of those portraits are extremely old, and there would be cost of conserving them. So that's going in, cleaning them, filling in some of the trim areas, putting a glaze over them, a new backing and framing. So that's kind of one portion of our art conversation. Another portion is there's always been talk, and as you can recall in some of the presentations, there is going to be some public art throughout the building. At least we had always planned on some, especially in the lobby area. You've got an extremely tall ceiling, and that's typically where you would see something suspended. Most of the courthouses that county staff and the courthouse staff toured do have some sort of public art component, and there's a process to go through that. And larger counties go through them all the time, and in some counties, they actually have a percentage of total construction cost that goes to public art. Cabarrus County does not have that policy. Some places that do have that are Wake and Mecklenburg. So anytime they build something, there's a percentage of that goes into public art, and they go through a commissioning process, and they have a group, a panel, a committee, just like we had a selection committee for both our architect and for our construction manager at risk, that looks at the submittals and makes the decision on what artist or what group to award that to. And we would need to, before we would do that, we would need to set some dollars on what we were willing to spend, and also we would need to have some idea of what we're actually asking for, meaning we need to say what type of material it's going to be and what we're looking for in terms of what kind of programming in that art are we looking for? What are we looking for it to relate to? So there will be some discussions with the board as we move forward, and I would hope, and I planned on probably asking some of the board members to sit on that selection panel as we did with both the architect and the construction manager at risk. And I'm just looking for some input and guidance, and if you all think that sounds good. We've never done a building where we've really needed to go down the road of public art. This would be the first time.
Yeah, he just covered a whole lot of stuff. So understand that you as the board can be plugged in anywhere in that process you want to be plugged in, or we can keep giving you the monthly report. So if you don't think that you're only going to get it on monthly reports. If there's anything that's going on, you can participate in those meetings. As Kyle said, the public art thing, there doesn't have to be any public art. As he said, in a lot of the ones we've been visiting, there is public art. But at certain time, there is, and it's getting close to that time in the process, if you're going to have public art in the building, then he needs to know so that he can, because there's space needs, but also the infrastructure around the lighting, the electrical, everything else, and Mr. Kiger, I think you can probably attest to a lot of that stuff. So that you're going to be having more conversations. We want you involved in that conversation about the paintings and whatever. That's what they have in other. If you don't want them here, we don't have to have them here. It's just totally up to you what goes in there and how much we spend. But we want to make sure that if there is a need or preference for art in there, we need to start making some decisions earlier than later as far as the amount, the type, and really location, so that Kyle and the contractors and the designers can react accordingly. So same thing with the plaza and the exterior area. Not only is it art that we're going to need to start talking about, we've been using Means Plaza, but by no means is that, no, sorry about that, but that's not what we're recommending that it be called. That's just because it was Mean Street. So that's going to be something that's probably going to be a conversation that you and the city council may want to have. Who's going to run that who's going to program that plaza? Who's going to put the art in that plaza and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of things going on. So please, if you're getting enough information, that's great. If you want more, if you want to be in those meetings, please let us know. And again, let's see, continue. Not only is Kyle working on the building, he is also working on, there's going to be some dislocation and creating a need for relocation of some of those offices over there. They have to leave while construction is going on, such as youth probation,
Juvenile justice.
Juvenile justice.
And
has
guardian
to
ad
leave.
litem. Guardian ad litem.
Yeah, so they will be the first ones to have to go, because that'll be part of that annex that's going to go away so that we can build a new building. So we're in the search of locations now. We're in search of locations that will square footage suit their needs, but on our side also suit our financial needs or capabilities to pay. And since it's temporary, we don't want to go build a building for them. We're trying to find an existing building, preferably an existing building that we own, that has a little bit of space that we can use for a couple of years while they are having to move from their location. So we'll keep you posted on that. Kyle's had to have a lot of discussions with the state representatives as well, and what their needs are with that temporary space. We see it as temporary space, and they see it as a permanent space. Or they want it to look like the permanent space. So we're going to keep having those conversations, but we do want you to understand, we're going to keep giving you these monthly reports, but any time in the process or any part of the process that you want to personally just observe or be part of that decision-making, please make sure you let us know.
Questions for
I've just got
Kyle?
a couple comments, Mr. Chairman. That is, public art is surely something that we want to consider. And, we've got some deep roots in Cabarrus County, particularly with the Cannon Mills and the Cannon family and all of that. Would the funding for something like that, could we possibly seek out some funding from the Cannon Foundation for that, for the public arts part?
Yes, you could. I believe Judge McGee, who on the portrait side of it has been the big proponent of the portrait side of it. He's done all the research. I believe that's probably the route he was going to go down. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we had those discussions offline. In terms of the large pieces that I'm talking, or large piece that I'm talking in the lobby, I'm sure that Mr. Downs and myself can start those conversations. I don't know if the Cannon Foundation, they've been great to our libraries and a lot of different entities and groups, we would have to make those inquiries.
Well, it's certainly worthwhile, I think, and as for me, I can't speak for the other commissioners or for the county, but, we're looking at, we just saw, on what we looked at with the previous presentation there, with the CIF, looking at potentially $110 million for that courthouse. And I want us to keep the cost as low as we can. And if we can seek outside funding, foundational help or things like that, grants, I hope that we'll do that. But the arts is very important, and it should be strongly considered, but obviously you have to be, like you said, maybe a percentage of the total project. So, I don't know, it's a lot of questions, and it's a lot to take on, but I just want to try to keep the debt on that as low as we can.
Yeah, I think the overall budget, or even the arts, you don't have to do it all at one time. This could be a 20-year
Sure.
project where you put a little bit, but as far as if it's interior, well, even exterior, we need to know the locations of where they are so that we can
Sure.
put the infrastructure in now instead of having to start digging up
Right.
or moving walls and stuff like that, as we go through the process.
Well, we're in total agreement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions or comments? I certainly appreciate the discussion about some of the historical portraits and that sort of thing. I think it is a shame that we currently have things in storage closets that should be out on public display. And so I am very much in favor of that. I certainly agree with Commissioner Shue. This is a big project with a big price tag. We want to keep it as low as we can. But I would think that the public art that we're talking about is a very, very small percentage of the total expenditure. So I would really like to see us go forward with that, or certainly to understand what that is, you know. It's hard to say yes or no before we know a price tag, but I think it's certainly something that we should explore. I certainly like the fact that you mentioned the Arts Council has been somewhat involved in that process, or the potential is there.
Yes, sir. We've already had a preliminary meeting with them, and I'd asked for their
Yeah.
assistance on a panel. Part of the issue with North Carolina general statutes in terms of advertising for the art is, in most cases, we need to kind of have an idea of a budget before we go out, because there's different types of artists, there's different types of materials that we, so that's kind of where I was looking for some guidance of, you know, or what are we looking for? I felt very firmly in the presentations that Silling gave that we definitely were trying to get something of a woven texture or something that related to the community, and I'm not sure if that was a hit or a miss. But those are the type of things that I need to have some sort of understanding of you know, what it is we're looking for. It's not I mean, we don't need a metal hanging kaleidoscope of a blue whale, because it has nothing to do with Cabarrus County. So those are the type of kind of point us in the right direction so that we can go investigate that information.
Yeah. I personally certainly like the idea of paying homage to our textile heritage.
Yes, sir.
Which has impacted just about every part of this community in some way or the other. But, I mean, you've got the process under control, and I'm applauding you for reaching out. I also wanted to mention, I had an opportunity to be with several of the judges at an event last night. They are extremely complimentary of the process, appreciate the input that you have sought from them and involving them in the process. I think that collaborative spirit goes a long way in getting the best product for the county. I also wanted to mention that as recently as this afternoon, I was with a downtown Concord business owner, and within the last several days talked with a developer who's beginning what will be a large project in downtown, and they all have been extremely complimentary of the parking deck, which of course is designed to serve this courthouse we're talking about, but it has a lot of benefits to the entire community and certainly to downtown as well. And so that goes back to that collaboration, which we get a lot of positive feedback from our partners on our willingness, and that's not only this elected board but staff primarily. And same thing goes, I think there's a lot of excitement about the plaza, public plaza also, and so I'm really proud that you have led us in getting those groups together between the city and the county and so forth. So it's, even though the price tag of the project is not terribly exciting, the other pieces are, and so I appreciate the work that you've done on that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Very welcome.
Yes, sir.
Well, I just want, so you want us to make suggestions on some things that we would like to see, or do you want us to, I mean, when we talk about concrete, brick, steel, I love that. You talk about art in public space, I'm probably not your guy for that.
Yeah, I think more, and Kyle's been doing a lot of the work behind the scenes, but it's, do you want to take that and turn it over to the Arts Council and say, hey, here's your budget, here, or even here's your locations, and here, what do you think? Maybe they have somebody that's a member, maybe they know of an artist that they can come back to you and say, hey, this artist would do it, but for a fee or whatever.
Yeah, to me, I think that would be a great idea and a great way to proceed. I think the safe way to do it would be to have the structure like we did when we picked the construction manager and the
Panel
architect.
committee. There's
So that-
certain
that
North
At least
Carolina.
one of the five of us is probably in on when the final sort of
Mm-hmm.
goes. So we're not surprised when something goes on the wall that we didn't really quite know. Not saying that would happen, you just never know. So I guess in the suggestion department, since, considering it's a courthouse, and I love the portrait idea and the textile idea, just to keep our roots. Because it's a courthouse, to me, I think one of the fundamental things is, I don't, this is pretty broad, but, and there's a couple different ways to do it, but a public display of the U.S. Constitution, to me, would be something that would be very appropriate for that space. And I know that comes in various shapes, sizes, forms, or whatever, but.
Yeah, we've had, about a year and a half ago, the
Yeah.
Charters of Freedom group came in, presented, and we put them on hold, simply because we didn't really have a place in this area around our building that could support the structure. So that will be incorporated in there somewhere, and that's
Yeah.
the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and
Bill of
and the
Rights.
Bill of Rights.
So those actually come in very heavy cases, and they would be displayed out in the public plaza area that cuts around in between the historic courthouse and the courthouse. And I've already got the engineers making sure that there's electric there and that, quite frankly, that those pavers can handle the weight of that. And we'll be reaching out to the Charters of Freedom to discuss with them. In most cases, they provide those of no cost. We'll have to have some conversations with them about that. They haven't returned my emails in a while, so I'll be working on that. In terms of the public art, there are some general statutes that we would need to investigate before we just went and chose an artist. So I think at a certain point, I'm going to kind of bring back some different concepts of what we're looking for in terms of that lobby area and what you're looking for, with words like airy and lighty and illuminated or heavy and metal, and kind of get an idea of what you're looking for so that we have an idea of what to tell these artists that they're going to be creating. Because keep in mind, not every artist uses every type of material. So this might be a niche that we're attacking. I think we need to have those discussions before we put this information out.
Absolutely. I think we're on the right track.
Yes, I just wanted to kind of bring it to all of your attention, not just to get an idea of when we bring some of these things back, and I'm showing pictures of artwork, which I'm no expert either. That's kind of the type of input I'd be looking for is yes, no, absolutely not, and that kind of get me in the right direction.
Very good. We thank you very much for the update. Look forward to the next one.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we move now to our innovation report from Debbie Brannon. And guest.
Yes, I did bring guests. Welcome to the Innovation Report. It's nice to be here this afternoon, but first we've got to get our infomercial for our employee book club. As you may recall, we're working to create a culture of innovation in Cabarrus County by educating and empowering staff. Each month we're selecting a book for employees to listen to using the free library service Hoopla. Employees then chat about the book digitally on Microsoft Teams. We currently have 74 employees registered for the digital book club. That's up 10 members from when I last reported in July. Our September book was recommended by one of our book club participants, Christy Reel. She's the branch manager of the Kannapolis Library. This month we are listening to and discussing John C. Maxwell's How Successful People Think. Here are a couple of quotes from the book that I think speak directly to how we can be more successful providing government services. One of the most important skills you can develop in human relations is the ability to see things from the other person's point of view. And often I take an idea that someone else gives me and raise it to a higher level. So hopefully you guys will join us with our book club this month. Our innovation report is on Finding Rover, which is a website and mobile app that helps reunite lost animals with their owners and connect adoptable animals with their new families. Today, joining me in support of the community initiative is Captain David Taylor from the Cabarrus County Sheriff's Department and Ms. Carol Miller, Chair of our County Animal Protection Advisory Board. This report is to help educate and empower our entire community on how using Finding Rover helps expand and improve the use of an existing technology we have to meet a community challenge. Using the Finding Rover website and app to view lost and found animals in the custody of others promotes transparency and is a visual measurement of how well our community is working together to help animals. Finding Rover is a community website and social platform for shelters, rescues, animal lovers, and advocates to come together to help animals. Residents and animal organizations share photos and descriptions of lost and found animals. Members of the Finding Rover community become part of the search party by helping match these lost and found posts. The Finding Rover app provides convenient mobile access to all the features of Finding Rover. I encourage everyone listening now to get their phones out and download the free Finding Rover app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Pet owners use this app to take a picture and register their pet, protect their pet before they're lost. You can invite your family and friends to join Finding Rover to help build members on this community platform. Increasing the number of people that know about and use the service will result in and increase the reunification of animals in our community and potentially less animals ending up in the shelter. If you find a lost pet, you take its picture and report your find to the Finding Rover community. Look at pictures of reported lost pets to find a match of the pet you found. If your pet goes missing, this app allows you to report your lost pet quickly and search for your lost pet by looking at pictures that are similar to other found animals. And you can also see on a map where there's lost and found animals. A digital poster is created, and you can also, as a bonus, see adoptable pets that are nearby in your area. The Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners has identified 5 strategic priorities as the framework for a new strategic plan, one being a healthy and safe community. Our animal community consists of many advocates: the County Animal Protection Advisory Board, the Sheriff's Animal Control, and the County Animal Shelter, rescue organizations, vets, groomers, and other pet businesses, all playing a part to keep our animals safe and healthy. Finding Rover is a free platform that this community can come together and use to help realize the strategic priority of a healthy and safe community for our animals. The Cabarrus County Animal Control and Animal Shelter have made a commitment to share lost and found animals on this platform. We have integrated the Sheriff's Shelter software with Finding Rover to automatically display stray animals at no cost to the taxpayers. When a pet is taken in our shelter, Finding Rover alerts all Finding Rover members nearby. Lost pet owners can search pets listed at our facility through the county website, the Finding Rover website, and on the Finding Rover mobile app. We encourage our residents, other shelters, and rescues to join the Finding Rover family so our community can find all our lost and found animals in one place, increasing the chance of successfully reuniting families and their pets. How could rescues help? We need rescues to become a partner too. There are many benefits Finding Rover integrates with your software. At no cost to you, lost pet owners can search pets listed at your facilities. Your staff and volunteers looking to adopt a pet can search all available pets at your facilities. Finding Rover members can add your organization to their packs to see your active animal profiles and to see anything that is posted, such as adoption events, donation requests, Dog of the Month, and success stories. How can residents and business owners help? Tell your customers, families, and friends about the free Finding Rover app and encourage them to protect their pets by registering them on Finding Rover. Download the app and become a part of the search party by actively searching for matches to the notifications of lost and found animals that you receive. And how can pet owners help? Registration of your pet is free and it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. Just go to thefindingrover.com or download the app from your phone or app store. Upload your pet's picture or photo, enter a few details about your pet, enter your name and address and zip code. If lost, report your pet lost on Finding Rover and search for matches on Finding Rover. Help us build our local Finding Rover community. Local collaboration and crowdsourcing is needed to help create a healthy and safe community for our animals. With everyone's help, we can make matches happen, resulting in reunions and new homes. That is the end of my report, and I would offer a chance for Carol to speak, if she would, or David.
As a rescue, we see a lot of reports where people out there, they find a stray. They don't know what to do with it. They need guidance. What they do is they post it on social media like Facebook. I found this animal, I can't keep it. They don't turn it into the shelter. They give it away. If somebody doesn't claim that dog within, say, 24 hours, they give it away. The owner cannot find their animal under those circumstances. Something like this, if you make it simple for someone to go in and say, I found this dog, here is where it is, the owner can find it. I think they're gonna go to the shelter site before they go to any of the social media. If it's simple for them to get onto the shelter site, click on Finding Rover and find their dog that is maybe not at the Cabarrus kind of shelter, it could be at another shelter. Could be in somebody's home. And Finding Rover will list their email address. And you can put pictures on there to find your dog. So it's actually a good tool. It may help owners find their animals that have not been turned into the shelter. It will keep animals out of the overcrowded shelter that you have already. What I would like to see on the shelter page, though, is the link to Finding Rover a little more visible, because I had to look for it. If you make it visible with some instructions, a tutorial or something like that for people to learn how to use it and make it simple, you'll get the public to use it. It'll keep the animals out of the shelter and people can find the animals that they've lost. It happens to everybody. Dog gets out of a gate, digs a hole under the fence. Happens to everybody. We know there's a lot of dogs that are just dumped and out there. But there's good people out there who take care of their animals and accidents happen. They need to be able to get their dogs back. They need a way to search for their dogs when it's not brought to a shelter.
And the good part about it is it's already connected with our shelter. It's already connected with our software. There's no cost to this app. I think the biggest hurdle or obstacle we may have is just publicizing it, getting it out there so people will actually use it. When me and Debbie had talked about it and we had met about it, it's not just on your phone. You can be at home and search it on your computer. It's not just an app for your phone, because I think some people get kind of crazy about apps on their phone, or I don't want to do this. So it can just be searched. It is attached to our current site already. So it can be viewed from there. It is a little, we got to make sure that it's easy for people to see. We had talked, the officers will be out There's flyers that Finding Rover provides for us, so we can do that. We're gonna hit like the veterinarian clinics and stuff like that. The more people that are on this and use this, the better it is, the more efficient it is. So I think it's a good tool and that we already have that's not gonna cost us anything. And we'll see, you know, how much the community gets involved.
I wonder if you would consider, brochures get thrown away. Would you consider 8 by 10 little stand-up flyer that can sit on a desk at a vet's office? Brochures get thrown away. Something like that that's there that they can read with maybe a little business card. And somebody say, oh, wait a minute, take a business card. You had mentioned something about putting the link on the back of the card, which would help people log into it.
I think
But-
Channel 22, we're gonna try to get them involved, and whatever Finding Rover can provide for us, we can distribute. You know, we have officers that can get out and do that. So I think, like I said, I think it will only be as strong as our community picks it up
Correct.
and looks, to be honest.
And even as a rescue, we do adoption packages. I'd be more than happy to put something like that in the adoption package when we adopt animals out to give to them. Because in case they lose an animal or an animal gets away from them, they have something, okay, this is what I need to do. You can probably get it out to rescues, veterinarians, even your pet supply stores.
It sounds like a tremendous opportunity. I think probably all of us have been in a situation before when we find an animal and we're trying to protect it. You know, and I've said, well, what if we let it go? Might it run into the street and be injured by a car? But if we don't let it go, how will it get back to its owner? And this sounds like a great solution to that. I think one of the questions that a lot of people you've mentioned is the free. Somebody pays for it somewhere. How is this whole thing funded? Is there advertising or is this just a pet lover?
It started as a pet lover, and
Okay.
there's a bonus on it. I think it's maybe some research because it uses a little bit of facial recognition to try to pull up matches of the dogs and cats. I tested it with my black lab. It pulls up a lot of black dogs.
Right.
But it did pull, and one of those black dogs was my black lab that, you know, when I was doing the testing. So I think it might be some research. It was a pet lover that started the
Right.
system. And you can transfer, like, the animals that we have now as they go out. When we if we put the email address of the new owner in there, they get an email. There may be some advertising on that email that goes out to the new pet owner. But
I don't think most pet owners would mind that with the advantages that it offers. So it sounds like a wonderful opportunity for everybody. Yeah. So we'll do our part to publicize it. Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is item 3.4. Kevin Grant to talk to us about recycling and waste reduction.
Good afternoon. Just wanted to give everyone an advance preview of a statewide campaign that's going to be launched next week. It's called Recycle Right North Carolina. This is a campaign that's being organized and spearheaded by the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. It's a campaign that Cabarrus County and our municipalities have all signed up for. Very excited about what's going to happen. It's something that I think we've talked about for the last year or so, maybe even longer. It's about the challenges in recycling right now and the need to recycle right. And hopefully this campaign is going to help publicize the need to recycle right and how to recycle right. I said it launches on September 9th, and it's going to run until November 15th, which is America's Recycle Day. Like I said, the intent of the campaign is to focus on what items are acceptable for recycling and to try to reduce the amount of contamination that our material recycling facilities are seeing. Trying to get people to get cart smart, simplifying the message, trying to create a single source message that not only all of our municipalities in the county, it's going to be similar, but even our region in Charlotte and surrounding counties as well. In our region, what we're trying to focus on is we send all of our recyclable material to a material recycling facility. The one that we send it to is down in Charlotte, and so what we call, those facilities are called MRF for short. So what we're trying to focus on is just like a river shed. These are called MRF sheds, and we're trying to funnel everything into this MRF shed, and they're the ones that dictate to us what they want and why they want it and what they don't want. And a lot of it's based on markets. I think, like I said, I've mentioned it probably 100 times in this room that, you know, the folks that want the plastic, there's only certain types of plastic that they need. The plastic market is getting very complicated. There's a lot of different chemistries, different types of packaging. So a lot of the packaging that we think is recyclable or people want to be recyclable just isn't, and it's not marketable for these folks. So we as counties and municipalities need to work with these material recycling facilities to help them produce a better product so they can sell it, make some more money, in turn take that money and invest it into better technology, and hopefully in the long run start to be able to recycle a more diverse material. Right now there's a great deal of struggling going on based on conditions, not only that with China, that they've rejected a lot of our material, but just in general, just the whole market, and like I said, the complexity, mainly with plastics right now. So this campaign is going to go on through November. Hopefully it's going to help educate the public. Like I said, we've gotten together with Concord and Kannapolis on trying to get together how we're going to send out these different messages. And then what the state, what the Department of Environmental Quality is doing with us is providing an execution schedule that includes tools and suggested tasks to help us get the message out to the public. And some of these items include brochures and posters that we can post on our website that help explain what's acceptable for recycling and why. Items to post on social media. There's going to be a special Facebook recycling page that we are being a part of, and it's going to be a statewide effort as well. Also, press releases and information that we can publish in newspapers. Topics that are going to include landfill space issues that we're currently all encountering, recycling economics, business participation, what our local businesses are doing in the community with regards to recycling, and then basically involving and educating the community in terms of not only recycling but waste reduction efforts. Because we all try to, you know, recycling seems to be the big topic, but as I go around and give presentations and we discuss the 3 R's, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle. Recycle is number 3. We need to start focusing on reducing some of the stuff that we use and looking at items that we can possibly reuse or where we could send these to be reused. So like I said, we are working also closely with the Mecklenburg County Material Recycling Facility, trying to get a better understanding of what they want and learning why as well. One thing that we did back a couple months ago as part of our Government 101 class is we did a whole day series on recycling and the challenges with recycling. And we actually took the residents down to the material recycling facility in Charlotte so they could actually see the facility and get a better understanding from their managers why certain things aren't acceptable. You know, why don't you put a plastic bag in your recycling cart? Why aren't you putting like an extension cord? And some of the issues that it creates down in Charlotte for these folks. We all need to work together. I mean, recycling is still very important, but we need to make sure we strengthen the program. And like I said, I think this campaign's taking place starting next week, but I think we're way ahead of the curve, especially here in Cabarrus County. Not only we've discussed a cartology app that I hope everybody has, and we just got done having a household hazardous waste collection day today, and there's a lot of first-time people that are participating. And I asked a lot of those folks, you know, how did they find out about it? And a lot of it's through cartology. It'll pop up on your phone saying, hey, today's a household hazardous waste today, and it explains where you go and what's involved with that. That cartology app also has information in terms of any type of material that you have, how to properly dispose of it. So, and that's, like I said, I think we're ahead of the curve in terms of what the state is doing, but I think this is also going to help reinforce the importance and the need to recycle right. One thing they're focusing on is, like, if there's any doubt with it, their motto is to throw it out. I think we should have ours, when in doubt, give us a call or email us. Because it may be something that you can't put in your cart, but there could be other methods to recycle it that we have capabilities to help with. So that's what we need to get the message. We're still working on this right now, but this is one of the brochures that not only us, Cabarrus, all the municipalities, but this is going to be very similar to what Charlotte has. It's going to be a simple message that's going to have the items that you can recycle, that you can place in your cart, the items not to put in your cart. And like I said, if it's not on there, give us a call or email us, somehow get a hold of us. And like I said, we can help potentially find a home for these items or start to learn. There's some items that want to be recycled and how we can do it. So, like I said, I just want to give a quick preview of what's coming up. You'll start to see it, like I said, in local newspapers, social media, and our webpage. And it's a collaborative effort with our, surrounding municipalities that we've already started working on, and we hope it's going to help reinforce it and help simplify and clarify the message about what to recycle and how to recycle right. Any questions?
I know we've had conversations before about some of the challenges that you just talked about. Somebody approached me this past week and said one of the municipalities was going to stop accepting glass for recycling.
Yes.
I said, I hadn't heard about that. Can you, obviously you have.
Well, glass it's an interesting topic. It's a challenge for these material recycling facilities, and a lot of it is because you place it in your cart. If it doesn't break there, it might break when they tip it into the recycling truck. If it doesn't break there, when it gets dumped on the floor at the material recycling facility, there's a good chance it breaks. There is challenges to sort the broken glass when it goes through the facility. Sometimes it gets into either the paper or the plastic, which creates contamination. There's a lot of challenges, and we're really struggling right here even internally about what to do with glass. The material recycling facility in Charlotte has told us that we can continue to send it to them. Some folks are looking at it differently because it does represent probably 25% of the total weight of the recyclable material that you send down there. And the processing cost is expensive, so some municipalities are taking upon themselves to maybe reduce cost. At our 2 recycling convenience centers, we have actually started to segregate glass, and I'm working with a separate vendor that we're going to collect it and put it in a separate container. They're going to come once a week and collect it, and they're actually shipping it to, I believe it's going to go to Atlanta. So we're kind of segregating it there. The municipality that doesn't want to do it, we've already communicated with them. If you don't want to have your residents put it in the cart, they could send it to our facility if you want to do it. But right now, the majority of us are keeping glass in the mix right now because we're hoping that as the recycling market gets healthier and these facilities start to generate a little more revenue, that they could actually add some technology to safely or better handle glass at this point. So, but that is the challenges in recycling, that you get different items that some folks may want to take and don't take. And there were some confusing messages from the material recycling facility in Charlotte in terms of what they wanted or didn't want. And so that's kind of what this campaign is kind of doing, is forcing the communities to get together with the MRFs and say, what do you want? So probably a long story for that answer, but I'm not sure if I totally answered it for you. But
Yeah, you did, yes.
That item is currently a real big challenge.
And explain to me MRF again?
MRF is a material recycling facility, so MRF.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay, any other questions for Kevin? Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, we move now to discussion items for action at our regular meeting. First up is Kannapolis City Schools request for landlord waiver. on guaranteed energy savings. We're glad to have Will Crabtree and Susan Farrington.
So Kannapolis City Schools addressed us and then wanted to make a request to the county commissioners to approve a landlord waiver in regards to a guaranteed energy savings project. So Will's going to explain that, but the 4 schools that we were particularly interested in were A.L. Brown High School, Fred L. Wilson, Kannapolis Middle, and Shady Brook Elementary, because we own title of those buildings. They are used as collateral on debt. So we'll take it from here.
Sure. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. As Susan was saying, we are looking for a landlord waiver. This is the last component of our Guaranteed Energy Savings Project. We obtained financing through Bank of America, and this is a request that Bank of America has. I think it's a pretty standard request from what I understand when we're in a situation where the county holds deed to a school system property. What the landlord waiver would grant would be, in the very unlikely event that there was a default on the loan, it would grant Bank of America the right to enter the building in question to recapture their asset, which could be a light bulb or whatever. One of the things that they acknowledge is that equipment connected to the structure of the building, such as HVAC, things like that, could not be recaptured because it is structural to the building. So you, as the landlords of those 4 particular schools, would have to approve this waiver for the energy saving project to go through.
Just, our attorney, Mr. Cook here, said that he and our bond attorney both have reviewed this. This will not have any impact on our debt and our contracts that are in place, so.
Okay, any questions for Will or Susan? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we move to 4.2, which is appointments to boards and committees. And you all have a detailed list of all those that is in your agenda and also has been emailed to you. If anyone has any questions, concerns, or comments, now's the time to do it. Hearing none, we'll move to item 4.3, contribution to North Carolina National Guard Museum, and Kristen Jones will talk about that.
Actually, I'm going to take that one, and if there are any other questions about the budget amendment, Kristen can handle those.
Very good.
We had received a solicitation for a contribution to the North Carolina National Guard Museum. There's also a nonprofit associated with this for $1,000 to help with the funding for 2 monuments recognizing World War I. Both the World War I, the heavy toll it took on North Carolina, as well as the heavy toll on the nation, and the contribution of all the individuals who fought in those battles. These funds, and they're attempting to raise $150,000 to erect a larger monument in Raleigh, as well as a monument in France at the site of a particular battle where almost every county in North Carolina, because of the great losses of soldiers in that battle, experienced some loss during that battle. So that's why they want to raise the money to have a monument there. They're also asking for a contribution of soil so that there's some part of each of the counties that is located with that particular monument, which is kind of a unique request. I will say that the solicitation, when we first received it, was a little different. It looked a little bit like a bill. So one of the first things we did was reach out to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, and they did confirm that this is a legitimate cause and that they are supporting this effort to raise the money for these monuments. I did reach out to them to find out where they were. They are at 60%, they're indicating, of their fundraising goal. I asked them to provide a list of the counties that have already committed funding, and I have not received that yet, but we'll add that to this before your regular meeting, or let you know if we have not heard back from them.
Great. Questions for Jonathan?
One final thing, this money, as you can see, there's a budget amendment that would take it from your contingency funds.
Okay, thank you.
Just one real quick question, Jonathan. The money, is it going to the National Guard or is it going to the nonprofit?
The 501 that they indicated to us is the North Carolina National Guard Museum, and they provided that documentation.
Just make sure that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we move to item 4.4, Tax Administration, Schedule of Values, Standards, and Rules. We're happy to have David Thrift with us with a very big book.
Good evening. So I'm come before you this evening to present the 2020 revaluation project, Schedule of Values, Standards, and Rules, both for present value and market value. This is, as you see, and as Commissioner Morris stated, a 12-chapter manual that we use to describe how we appraise property in a revaluation project. So this is our schedule, our manual, and our appraisal guide. It covers sections that include how we do sales analysis, our land records procedures, our land valuation models, all of our data collection procedures, the calculations that we use to develop values, all of our statistical analysis procedures, and specifications about our improvement valuation models. So this is, once adopted, the actual appraisal manual that we will use from the time of adoption to the end of the year to finalize the values in our revaluation project. So as you can see in the memo that I've provided, there is a statutory process for the presentation of this schedule, the notices that's required, the adoption, and the entire process is laid out. That process begins tonight with the official presentation of this proposed schedule. The schedule is going to be available in our office for review for any taxpayers. It is also going to be, we're working to publish that schedule online on our county website so it can be reviewed. I would encourage yourselves, any county staff, and certainly the taxpayers of Cabarrus County to review those schedules. We will publish in Friday's newspaper of this week a statement of the receipt of the schedules from the commissioners. We request that you set a public hearing for your regular meeting this month on the 16th. The public will have a 30-day period between now and the next work session to review the schedule. It'll be available for comment on the public hearing at your meeting. Our office is available to answer questions. At your October work session, we will ask you to formally adopt the schedule of values. And once you adopt the schedule of values, we'll provide 4 weeks of consecutive notice that that schedule has been adopted. It will then be, there'll be a 30-day period from that first notice that the schedule can be formally appealed to the Property Tax Commission. So November 8th becoming the final day that this schedule becomes final. We'll then use that to finalize values for, as of January 1st, 2020, for our revaluation. So really just want to again encourage anyone, yourselves included, to review the schedule. It'll be on the website. It's always in our office. But mainly, in addition to reviewing, if you have questions or if you have general curiosity about how the schedule works, if any taxpayers have questions about how the schedule works, how we appraise property, it's a good opportunity for our staff and myself to work with taxpayers and just give an understanding of how this process works. It's a very large book, and it's a very complex book. The process of a countywide revaluation is that as well. This gives us an opportunity, however, to show how we use this manual. We use this guide to make sure that we appraise all property equitably. We're using the same methodology for all property. The models that are built in are used consistently across the board. So just want to encourage the review of that, and then certainly if anybody has any questions, either now or over the next month, we're happy to discuss the schedule with anyone.
Okay, questions for David?
So on October 7th, our work session, when you say adopt the schedule of values, are you going to be looking for us to suspend the rules and vote on that when you say adopt, or?
So for that, we will need an official adoption of the schedule.
On that day?
It'll be reviewed over the next, between now and then. You'll have the public hearing. Public will have an opportunity at your regular meeting to present any comment, and then if you will, I will be requesting that you actually adopt the schedule at your work session, so that can start that process. The reason for doing it in that time frame is so we can have a final schedule by November 8th, which gives us the most amount of time to finalize those values before January 1st. So,
And if a homeowner goes online to look at the projected or
right.
schedule of values, how easy for them is it to get an idea of how their tax value is going to come out, or is it?
It's a complex process. It's going to be difficult for an individual to go in and look at, to determine what their value is going to be. This is more a guide of how we appraise that property and the methodology we use. So there's not going to be an individual number based on this schedule that a taxpayer can look up and find for their property. But what we can do is it shows the methodology we use, and we can certainly use that to explain, if they have questions, want to talk about with us, how we go through the process of identifying what their property is and using these models to create a valuation for it.
Thank you.
David, this document, is this a uniform set of guidelines that every single county in the state is using the same book? Or is it some that have been customized for Cabarrus County? And how and why is that process done?
So the schedule of values is customized by us every revaluation. So this is a new, every revaluation we create a new schedule of values. A lot of the material, the structure is used consistently in a lot of counties. But the individual models that we build, what we spend the last year and a half, what we've been doing is creating this schedule of values, analyzing sales, adjusting our models to the current real estate market to create this schedule here. So this is unique to Cabarrus County. It is unique to this revaluation. So we have a similar schedule for the 2016 revaluation, but those are not identical.
So the guiding principles are governed by the statutes. However, the schedule of values is based on real estate that is local.
That's correct.
Okay.
The statutes require that we create and establish a schedule of values. The definition of that and the fact that it becomes this is more of a local matter.
Okay, other questions for David? So I think probably the average taxpayer, if you ask them how the county goes about revaluing property in a revaluation, would probably say that you ride down the street and make a picture and then arrive at a conclusion, or you increase everything by X percentage across the board, and what I'm hearing from you is neither of those things are true.
That is correct. So we spend a considerable amount of time in this revaluation project developing models that we can apply to each individual property. The goal being to establish 100% of market value for that individual property as of January 1st, 2020. It is, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, so, for example, where we've had such a competitive market in the $200,000 to $300,000 price point, and there have ended up being multiple offers, in many cases bidding it up. Do you take it by segment of pricing, or is it just an overall of what you've seen in the market?
So what we've been doing is analyzing that market. We've been doing that on an individual neighborhood basis. We've used the overall market to develop the models that we apply to individual properties. So in general, as you know, items about real estate affect properties in different ways, and we've built that into our regression models. So we can take a neighborhood, apply this this model, we establish a land value through sales analysis. So as property sells, those values grow up. And then this model allows us to adjust each individual neighborhood by the particular market that it's in. So one neighborhood may be increasing more than another. And this model that we establish allows us to account for that on an individual level. So.
Great. Any other questions? We thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, we move now to item 4.5, Dominion Energy easement on East First Street. Jonathan's down for that one.
These are easements that you've already approved. In fact, you approved them last month. Dominion Energy has paid us the $13,355. It's gone into a general revenue account. You had indicated a consensus that those be set aside to benefit Kannapolis City Schools, so this is simply the budget amendment to do that. And I wanted to add that Will Crabtree has made him aware of this before we provided the easements to get his feedback. Also have given his contact information directly to Dominion Energy and their construction management folks, and they are working with him both on notifying him of any construction before it takes place, as well as will need to clear and make sure that everything is put back the way it needs to be before we release them. So, but this is just the budget amendment part of the process.
Great. Questions for Jonathan? Okay, item 4.6, reappropriation of funds for ongoing project grants and commitments. And Kristen Jones.
Good evening. So I typically come to you twice a year to do this. So I just presented back in August a list of projects, typically grants, commitments, any ongoing projects that couldn't be completed in FY19 that we are requesting to transition or carry forward to FY20. And that is completed via a fund balance appropriation. So this list isn't too lengthy, so I'll hit the highlights, and then if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So our communications department is requesting to roll forward $500, and that's for digitalizing the seal, the county seal. Our human resources department is requesting to carry forward $3,000 in funds. That's for recruitment and training purposes. Specifically, they are wanting to start a workshop/leadership course that focuses on building diverse and inclusive teams within the county. One I did want to kind of highlight is in the non-departmental, your board contingency account. We are requesting to reappropriate or roll those funds forward. It's $37,500. And that is for an internal control assessment to take place within the county. So there's a very large description there. I'll hit the highlights. So that would bring in a consultant, and they would focus on various ranges ranging from purchasing, vendor management, internal audit, and cash handling. So if you have any questions there, I'll be happy to answer any. Moving on, and it's the spreadsheet's divided up into our function areas, so that ties it up for the general government area. Our EMS department is requesting to reappropriate $1,000 worth of funds, and that was for the printing of their state protocols. It was delayed due to new staff coming on, and they didn't have time to review the protocols in time. Our sheriff's office is requesting to reappropriate $17,876 within their uniform account for kind of two purposes. They're changing, in the process of changing their Class B uniform, and they're also wanting to create a stock room that will ultimately reduce kind of custom and tailor fitting to where we're having to send it out, and then they'll have a stock room in place for employees to come once they're hired and onboarded. And then the two for human services are grant related. One is tied to our transportation grant. It's our 5310 grant, and that's for eligible taxi trips. And also our Triple P grant, which is within our child welfare program, and that provides parenting classes. And then last is $12,000 for Kannapolis City Schools to conduct a feasibility study for the Cannon Gym. to take place. So it's from my understanding, they've started this feasibility study. Just the final architect report was not able to be completed in time prior to fiscal year end. So the total of these projects is $120,723.06. That would be reappropriated from via fund balance moving to the general fund, and you can see the corresponding account numbers there on your spreadsheet. So I know that was a lot of information, but this list wasn't as lengthy as the August list, which is always good. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions for Kristen? I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Item 4.7, request to purchase county property on Rankin Road, and Jonathan Marshall will talk with us about that.
With your indulgence, I'd like to start with some more general comments and perhaps get some consensus and feedback from you on those before we get into the specifics. I think you all are fairly familiar with this request. There have been a number of emails, and you've seen some of my responses to those as well. But just when you look at the reservoir as a project that began in the mid-'80s, the City of Concord started that with property acquisition. Of course, Cabarrus County stepped into that project and took over. There was one deed that transferred all the property from the City of Concord they've already purchased to Cabarrus County. And then the county continued with acquisition of property until all the property where the reservoir was constructed had been acquired. The general goal of that, or the very specific goal of that, was to acquire every piece of land in which the reservoir inundation would be located. So that's 650 feet above sea level is the full pond. So from 650 feet above sea level down to the bed of Cottle Creek, that land was acquired. But in addition, we acquired land beyond that to have at least a 150-foot buffer. Now, if you look at a survey of the reservoir and all the property that Cabarrus County owns, you'll see that that's a little bit imperfect. There are some areas, of course, where we acquired more. There's some a little bit less, where that 150-foot buffer goes on to private property. But overall, those were the two goals: to acquire the land for the reservoir to be located and a buffer area for protection of the drinking water source. Now, in addition to that, there are state-mandated protections of the watershed that we enact through our zoning, both with a base zoning for lot size as well as watershed protection ordinances or watershed protection overlay, which limits the amount of impermeable surface and in other ways protects the water quality by making it a less intensive developed area. And that is that those restrictions are imposed upon private property owners, both in the critical area, which is the area closest to the reservoir, as well as the overall watershed, everything that feeds into Cottle Creek and into the lake. That is a lot of information about the property. I just wanted to give you that as a background, because as you look at that and you look at the survey that's been done of that, you'll see that there are some areas where we have additional property beyond that 150-foot buffer, beyond those standard protections. And it's a little bit of an anomaly. There are not many areas, but we've talked about some of them before. You've entertained offers on some of those before, both exchange of property, people asking to buy a little property to add to theirs, and then also just outright purchase of some property. And with our GIS being available online, we find more people able to do that research and find parcels, and so we get those inquiries. Very few of those actually get to you, because some of those largest ones, and I'm going to use an example at the corner of Steyerwalt or Trinity Church and NC3. The county owns a much larger parcel there. It's approximately 40 acres, well beyond the buffer area. Now that's one I get a lot of inquiries because it is on NC3, but that is the site of a common septic field. When we bought some of the property surrounding or necessary for the reservoir, we removed the septic field for some of those homes, and rather than buying the home, the county installed a common septic field that's operated by the Water and Sewer Authority for us. And so those houses, now it's actually just one house at this point, feed back to that common septic field. So when I get those inquiries, I explain that to them, that property's not for sale. We also acquired some additional property south of NC 73, which also feeds into the lake. again, as a protection, but also with the possibility, if there was ever any recreation on the lake, it would probably be south of NC 73, and so we acquired some property there, along with the Water and Sewer Authority. So that said, there is this parcel, is the only one of its type on that side of the reservoir. It's on Rankin Road, where we acquired a much larger parcel than we did on the surrounding pieces. It was all part of a division of some family property, and the city of Concord actually acquired the entire parcel up to Rankin Road. They did not acquire anything to the west of Rankin Road. I can't tell you why that happened. There are no records, and the more time passes, the less I think anyone knows, perhaps other than some of the property owners, like the Rankins and Overcashes on Rankin Road, are probably aware of some of the circumstances. But it is one where I've had people over time inquire about buying some of that property. And the standard has been that, I think with this board and others, that if there isn't a public benefit or purpose to keeping that property, then you would prefer it be on the privately owned and on the tax rolls. I can't tell you if there are definitely some benefits to this being undeveloped. So I can't tell you that I wouldn't say there are no benefits to that. I would tell you this is a little bit abnormal in that we own so much land. So I guess my question for you, though, in general, is you've already indicated that you would like to transfer all the reservoir property to the Water and Sewer Authority of Cabarrus County, and Mr. Cook can update you on that process. But they maintain and operate the lake for us. So that transfer is in the works. If you would prefer, just as a general consensus, say you are not going to consider any other sales, transfer, or any other sales, exchanges, or the like around the reservoir, I think that we don't need to get into the specifics. If you are still open to offers, then I think we can talk about the specifics of this, and you will certainly receive input, both pro and con, on that before your next meeting. So that said, if you wanted to ask Mr. Cook, I know he and I have had a number of discussions. The deed has been written. The description has been written. I think he and his associate and I need to go back through that because there have been a few changes since then.
We were working on that before I had my stroke, and then it's a pretty big project because there are so many different parcels. And actually, the Water and Sewer Authority, I think, owns one of the parcels that is part of the overall project. So we've been trying to piece that all together, and we kind of let it go, or I shouldn't say let it go, but it kind of got put on the back burner when I was gone, and in the hospital. But now that we have these situations coming up, it's probably good to get back on it and try to get it completed. So.
And there were some properties in there that we had excluded from that transfer. The Concord's water treatment plant is on a piece of property owned by Cabarrus County and leased to the city of Concord. We had excluded that. We had retained ownership of that because it is tied to that lease. We had bought some land, half with Wasack paid half for and the county paid half for. That would be excluded because that is possible. Again, if there were to be any recreation, it would only be on a limited part of the lake, and we would want to retain that for that possibility. But there's a few exceptions like that, so we just want to make sure that all of that is properly identified before any transfer. But I guess, Mr. Chair, the real question to you is, if the board consensus is that you don't want to consider any of the transfers, I don't think we need to discuss the specifics of this any further. But if you think you would consider that, then I would be glad to go through all those specifics. And I do believe there are some folks here tonight who are here for that purpose, and then certainly be interested in your discussion.
Commissioners, what are your thoughts on this? I know there have been quite a few emails and inquiries. I think certainly there is valuable thought to occur based on what Jonathan just pointed out. I mean, if these properties are excess and were acquired for reasons unknown to us, but not needed to meet those other qualifications, do we have an obligation to the taxpayers to put those back on the tax books under private ownership or not? So I guess we're just looking for your thoughts. as to how we might want to proceed. I think the last parcel was on the other side of the lake, and we did, was that a swap or a sale?
That was a sale. There's some acreage, and that was a particularly odd purchase, and that we did not purchase 4 acres, and there was a right-of-way running through part of the property to that. So the property owner wanted to purchase the area between their 4-acre lot that they owned privately and Bradford Road, but it also did contain their right-of-way, so it was partially cleared for that purpose. So
Right.
that was particularly unique.
Right. So what are your thoughts?
Go ahead. Well, I mean, I would be more in favor probably of continuing the transfer of the property through the WASAC, like we were talking about. Unless I misunderstood.
And just leave it in place as is and transfer the entire.
Right, which was a decision we had made a while back.
Some time ago,
Right.
yes.
So that's just
Yeah,
me.
so that would eliminate the possibility of honoring this person's request to purchase the property. Okay. Other comments?
But it wouldn't prohibit the Water and Sewer Authority in the future.
Right.
To do.
Yeah.
Well, that's fairly much what I was thinking also. You know, we have a duty and an obligation to the public, as it's already been announced by Mr. Marshall there, to try to put this much county-owned property back into the tax rolls to generate revenue. But this is obviously a little different case because it's around the lake. But if have been working, and I know I've been on the board for almost 5 years now, and we've been talking about it for several years, about doing the transfer from the county over to WASAC. And with that being said, that it seems to me like that WASAC would have a little say-so on what's going on, because in other words, we could sell it, obviously, and put the money in our revenue stream, but it's not going to have WASAC any say-so in that. And I think that if they're being considered, and obviously they want to do this, that we need to get that done first, and then let them have some type of say in whether they sell the property to whatever or however they want to do it. But I think we need to move forward and really expedite getting that done, because it's been laying out there for several years, and get that done. And but then again, if they don't want to do that, then you know, there is such a thing as an upset bid process, that if it does go through with the sale, and it'd be just like any other piece of property we have that the county sells as surplus or whatever, you take the bid on it, and then there's a specified amount of time for an upset bid, and then if that, you know, it can just go on and until, you know, it's sold for a certain price. And of course, that would leave the homeowners that's out there in that area the opportunity to add to their existing plot if they wanted to, but it wouldn't hinder the county moving forward, doing our obligation to putting the money back on to the tax books. But if WASAC has control of that, it still stays off the tax roll. Is that right?
That's correct.
So it don't go back on with WASAC. So there's no real benefit for that other than, well, they're already operating it already, so we don't really have too much expense going there that I know of. But it's a pretty tough decision, believe it or not, you know, as to whether to sell it or not, because you could go one or different directions.
Other comments?
I have a quick question. I guess the move to transfer it back to Wasac predates me being here. And I'm sure there's a long, maybe not long, but there's some history there that I would assume Commissioner Poole, being a Wasac board member, can probably tell us more than we care to know. But what was the purpose of that, to starting that transfer? And I guess the reason I'm asking is I imagine, it sounds to me like if we had made a commitment, honoring the commitment is probably the way to go, as we've heard. But I don't guess we really are required, and we certainly don't have to sell it. And is there any benefit of us holding it. I mean, having property in your possession is not the worst thing in the world. But what was the history behind the transfer over to Wasac?
Commissioner Poole will definitely want to add to this. I think part of it is the Water and Sewer Authority of Cabarrus County, but the only water portion is really this raw water source at this point. And so I think part of that was a movement towards it being including the wholesale facilities for both water and sewer. This is the largest wholesale facility in essence, being the largest water source. So I think that was part of the reason that we originally turned over the management and operation. But the other reason is that the Water and Sewer Authority charges fees to the users. So essentially, it is the water users that are paying for the cost of management and protection or management of this watershed. It goes through fees that are charged to Concord, Kannapolis, and Harrisburg, at Wilmington and Midland, of course, because they're also on the water service. So that said, that was part of the reason for management and operation, and there was a management and operation agreement reached with the Water and Sewer Authority, but we continued to own the land. Now, the additional discussions beyond that became part liability and insurance. Someone needs to insure both this land and the dam, and because they manage and operate it, they really can't put that insurance through their name. So with the transfer, they'll have the opportunity to do that, and that'll become part of their fee structure and it is a separate enterprise fund for them, so it'll all be incorporated into that. So we went out and we actually met with the public in this area about 3 years ago and got some feedback, and I think it was kind of mixed on what we heard on that, but I think most people look at it as a county reservoir but didn't realize Wasac managed and operated it. And because they do manage and operate it, it I think made sense to the board then to transfer the property as well.
That does make sense. So you're taking a gray area and you're just trying to uncloud it a little bit.
We are. Plus, there are some
Well,
functional parts to that, which are those liability and insurance issues.
Well, barring something or hearing something totally different than that sounds like a reasonable way for us to proceed and take care of something that probably was, like you said, was the reason it started down that path to begin with. So, okay, thank you.
I'll just say it is a benefit to the county to finish this transaction with Wasac. And as a county commissioner, that would be the reason to support it.
So with that, do you, at this point, want to table any consideration of this request to purchase?
Do we want to table it, or do
Table
we
it or
want
just-
to deny it?
Either way.
I think I'm hearing a consensus to move forward with the transfer of the property to Wasac. That would be my position as well, I think. And then if Wasac wants to consider selling some of that property, they are much more qualified than we are to determine if there's any impact on the watershed. So do we have a consensus on that? I see heads nodding yes. So I would say that we would deny the request to purchase and refer that individual to the Water and Sewer Authority pending this completion of this transaction. Does that sound accurate?
And Mr. Cook, I don't think we need any vote because they would actually have to conditionally accept an offer. So without doing that, it is essentially denied.
Right.
So is there, I guess, Mr. Cook, this is for you. What is this individual who is wanting to purchase this property, and for future people that want to purchase the property, that there's a process going on, they can't follow through with the purchase until this process takes place? What is a realistic expectation of the county transferring that property? And be conservative, I'm sure, because there's going to be things that are going to, but is it a year, is it 2 years, is it 6 months, or?
Well, when we were working on it before, we ran into a couple of problems with some of the descriptions, and that's what kind of slowed the project down. And so I would say probably 90 days, maybe less.
I think that Katie and I had addressed most of this. I think that I would agree with that 90 days. That way we can go back through, because again, as I've said, No, I made it even more complicated than you probably believe it is. It is more complicated than that when you start looking at that property acquisition.
Great. Well, that 90 days is a much shorter duration than I expected to hear, so that kind of reemphasizes our decision. Great. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay, we move to item 4.8, resolution of support for a new roundabout at Gold Hill and Irish Potato Roads. And it's Jonathan again.
The North Carolina Department of Transportation had reached out to me to ask about a resolution supporting the construction of a roundabout at this intersection. Those of you who are familiar with this, and it is the route that most people take to get to Camp Spencer. So it's a route that are used by county employees quite a bit, but the residents of that area can tell you that there are quite a few accidents there, and you can see from the crash data that's been included, as brief as it is, one of those was fatal and 8 were heavy injury crashes. There is quite a value, of course, put on human life and on injury crashes. So they do want to construct a roundabout there as the safest method to control traffic and to reduce accidents and reduce the severity of accidents. I spoke to Jimmy Lentz, our EMS director, about this because this is in the Coldwater District, and I knew he'd have some interest as a Coldwater Volunteer Fire District member and some input. He had indicated that the property owners here, because you can see with the new configuration and the roundabout, the property owners do have some effect on their property from this. It is a great improvement for safety, but will affect those property owners. And I've requested that NCDOT contact them and let me know that they've contacted them. I've heard back from Mark Morgan with DOT, and he believes that two of the 3 major property owners have been contacted, but he's confirming that. And again, I'll get you that information because I think we need to know that before you pass this resolution. I do believe this is an important improvement, and they're seeking funding for it through this high-impact, low-cost method, and that's what they want you to support. But I do think we need to hear from those property owners before that. This, of course, is one of 3 roundabouts planned in Cabarrus County over time. Odell and NC3 is one that has gotten funding, and they're working on the final design. The other one actually is not in Cabarrus County, but you had a speaker at your commissioners meet in the public comment whose son was killed in an accident at Old Salisbury and Irish Potato. That is continuing. They're continuing to plan that roundabout also, but as it's shown now, that's all in Rowan County. But it does that helps fix the geometry of the intersection as well. So I think these are important improvements. They're very effective in not only reducing accidents, but reducing the severity of accidents. But in this case, I want to make sure they've contacted those property owners. I think that was very good feedback from Mr. Lentz.
Okay, questions for Jonathan? Did you have?
Yeah, I was going to say, on your behalf, you had requested us to send a letter to DOT on the Irish Potato Old Salisbury Concord interchange after the gentleman came and spoke to you. So we did do that. We have received back notification, as Jonathan said, that it is being designed now, and I think it's 2021 or 2022 that they intend to start construction.
And if you were interested in seeing those preliminary designs, I think Commissioner Poole, you may have seen those, but I have those and can send them to you if you'd like.
I would ask that, presuming that this would get approved, that a copy is also sent to the Cabarrus Rowan MPO, just to make sure that sometimes DOT does a very good job of communicating, and sometimes they don't. We're all that way. It's not just them, but I think it would be important for the MPO board to get a notice so that they know that what this board is doing. And I'm currently the chair of that board, so I think it's sometimes I get information because of that I wouldn't get otherwise, and we wouldn't get here otherwise. So I just think that's important. You know how to get it to Phil, so I think that's the main one to send it to.
Would you anticipate getting the answers to your questions of the property owner inquiries back prior to our regular meeting?
I do. Mark Morgan, I'd sent him a note last week, and I believe he was out, but he responded to me today that he believed they'd contact 2 of the owners, and he was going to get more information from those who are working on this specific design.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, we move to item 4.9, fiscal year 205311 Community Transportation Grant, to set a public hearing, and we're happy to have Bob Bushy with us.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me come before you this evening. This is our annual community transportation grant through the state of North Carolina. This grant provides funding for administrative as well as capital needs. In this grant, we're requesting from the state for administrative $170,139, which requires a 15% local match, $25,522. We are also requesting $393,000 to replace 6 vehicles that have met their useful life. That will require a 10% local match of $39,300. Total project will be $563,139 with a local match of $64,822. This grant does require a public hearing, so we are asking to hold the public hearing and that you would then vote and accept the grant and adopt the associated resolution.
Great. That local match is, can you talk a little bit about where that comes from? I know at times past, there have been some other grants that we were able to count as that, or has this come just from our general fund?
This one is just
Okay.
general fund.
Great, thank you. Questions for Mr. Bushy? Okay, then we'll move to item 4.10. Bob, again, Transportation Title VI Policy.
We actually came to you in June at the workshop with the Title VI policy for adoption. Before we could get to the actual meeting to adopt it, the state pulled it back and asked us to hold back on it as they wanted to go through another review process. They have since then released it back to us, so it is ready to go back to the regular meeting. We're asking that it'll be adopted at that meeting.
Okay. Questions for Bob about that? Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we move to item 4.11 from Finance. Adjust soil and water prime farmland funding to capital improvement plan level. Susan Farrington.
Each year, we take a look at our funding for the prime farmland. We want to keep in our funds $125,000 a balance, so $100,000 for any potential easements that come up. We want to be able to go ahead and spend that, and $25,000 for legal and other administrative type things. So this is the time of year we look at those funds, and there's an adjustment that needs to be made of $29,854.24 to set aside for the for the easement line, to get that back up to $100,000. If you'll keep in mind that the preservation funds have been established since, I look back, it was 2010, and so we've been accumulating funds in that, and we've been able to use it for some, recently, some projects that we just passed, and the budget for 20 was the setting aside money for the land purchase for some future ball fields, the Camp Spencer vending overlook, the Franklin Park water line replacement, some things like that that we've been able to do by setting this money aside, the deferred tax. So, questions?
Okay, questions? You have something? Okay, thank you. And we move to item 4.12 from Human Resources, Personnel Ordinance Updates. And we're happy to have Lundy Covington.
Thank you, Commissioners. I have 6 updates for you today. I will be brief with that. They're in the sections of our pay plan and leaves of absence. And then I have a few more updates. I feel like I'll be back before you next month to share that tie to our emergency management 24-hour shifts. So that's future. Lauren is going to share the materials that have the highlights. That's probably the cleanest version. But you also have a copy with track changes if you want to see all the detail changes as I go through these quickly. Just slow me down if you have a question about any of the sections. So the first item under the pay plan section is our overtime, and we want to add compensatory time to that. That section already deals with comp time issues, but just to kind of bring that to focus. Many of our departments do not pay overtime. We give comp time in lieu of. The change in this section that we would propose is just to document our preferred order of usage of time, that being that if an employee has a comp balance, they would use that instead of vacation always, or that would be a required, and then if they have a comp balance, they could use it in lieu of sick time. The reason for this change is to ensure that our comp time balances stay at a minimum level. We do pay out comp time for our non-exempt employees who depart the county. The second change is under our bilingual incentive section, and that is a change just to the time period to qualify for the incentive. Right now, it ties to probationary period for employees. We would like to change that to 6 months of employment as a standard. The reason for that is we have several departments that have different lengths of probationary time. For example, the sheriff's office requires a 12-month probation. We have the ability to extend probation, so DHS will often have a 9-month probation. So we'd like to be consistent at 6 months, and we feel like this is an advantage to the county, our departments, and the citizens we serve, as well as an advantage to the employee to go ahead and be able to begin utilizing those skills at the 6-month mark. So that's the change there. Moving to leaves of absence, we have the next item under our holidays, and this is holidays as it relates to our part-time employees who are scheduled for 20 hours or more, so only that group of employees. Right now, our holiday for that group is based on schedules, and we find that that can be very inconsistent, especially for departments who have different, or what I would consider irregular schedules. Employees aren't on a fixed schedule. What we propose moving to is holidays based on an employee's FTE status. So, for example, if an employee is a 0.5 FTE or scheduled for 20 hours a week, they would be entitled to 4 hours of holiday per event, and that would be consistent. Of course, they would have to work time in that pay period or utilize paid time off, so the rest of the changes are more procedural. So the reason for this is, again, to enhance consistency, to make sure we're fair across all of our areas, and it will also be a benefit to our Chronos time clock scheduling, be a little easier for us to administer. The fourth item is under our vacation leave section, and that is just a minor adjustment to make it consistent with the changes already referenced on comp time, and that is just, again, to match those up, that use of compensatory time would be required if a balance is available. The fifth change is under leave without pay, and the opening statement that's highlighted is not actually a part of that section, but it does kind of summarize the changes that were made. What we are trying to do there is to emphasize that this policy is for exceptional circumstances, and it should be utilized for, it should be communicated prior to the employee being out on leave. So that would be a requirement. And then if it is not communicated timely, there will be disciplinary consequences both to an employee and a supervisor. So again, just to strengthen that and hopefully minimize use of leave without pay, but to have some standards around that. The sixth item, also a very minor change, is under our volunteer service leave, and that is just to specify a time period. Right now, it talks about 12 hours per year. We'd like to just include calendar year so we have a clean tracking system. So those are the changes we have at this time. Again, I'll probably be back next month with emergency management changes. Any questions on any of those items? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we move to item 4.13, infrastructure and asset management, and we're happy to have Michael Miller talk about governmental center skylight replacement and re-roofing project.
Good evening. An RFQ for construction manager risk services was advertised for the governmental center skylight replacement and re-roof project, which is 2 projects combined into one. After reviewing those submissions, it is a recommendation of staff that we proceed with Ike's Construction for construction manager risk services. So the requested action is for a motion for approval to pursue a contract between Cabarrus County and Ike's Construction for pre-construction services to authorize the county manager to execute the contract on behalf of Cabarrus County, subject to review and revision by the county attorney. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Michael? I think there is a request for a motion tonight, so we would need a motion to suspend the rules if you would like to act on this. Okay, we have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. That motion passes. Would now entertain a motion to approve the contract between Cabarrus County and Ike's Construction and authorize the county manager to execute the contract on behalf of Cabarrus County, subject to review and revisions by the county attorney. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Do we have a moment for discussion?
We certainly
I
do.
believe Mr. Billifer had something he wanted to add.
I just wanted to give one note to the board. This will be very similar to how we did the construction manager contract for the courthouse. So what you're approving is for us to move into a contract for pre-construction services, which in the case of this project is constructability, meaning how do you replace skylights in a building without all the rain falling into the building, which we're still working out the details on that. But when it comes to the actual GMP, when the final prices come back on the roof and the skylights, we will come back in front of the board with that number, even though the contract will already be in place for the pre-construction services. It'll be an addendum with the GMP on it at that point. I just wanted to put that out there so that the board knew we would come back with that.
What is the timeline to get this done? The whole project?
Timeframe to start construction is this spring.
I know you'll be glad to see the buckets go.
Yeah.
Well, what
I
are we
will
gonna do
be
in the
for
middle of
you
the
to
night?
see, glad to see
Yeah.
the buckets go.
Okay, additional discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item from Planning and Development, 2018-19 Home Program, Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluating CAPER. And to set a public hearing, and Jonathan Marshall will talk about that.
So as a member of the Cabarrus Iredell Rowan Home Consortium, which is part of our community development efforts, we are required to prepare this consolidated annual performance report and present that to the board. You are to hold a public hearing. You don't have to take any actions beyond that. And of course, you'll recall that we have basically been taking the funds that we received through the consortium and putting them together to help with the Prosperity Ridge project. There are some administrative funds in there, but you can see in the report, those are detailed. Should you have any questions, then Kelly Sifford can answer those questions for you. Again, you are required to have a public hearing, but don't have to take any action on that. And I will say, if you have not been up Little Texas Road and seen the Prosperity Ridge project, they are making great progress. We're to have substantial completion by December, and they are on track with that. And of course, we're required to do some Davis-Bacon wage monitoring, so we've been doing that ongoing through the project.
It was a slow start, but it's moving rapidly now.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Any questions for Jonathan? Okay, we'll move to item 4.15, Sheriff's Office, additional position allocation. We're happy to have Sheriff Van Shaw and Chief James Bailey with us. No, Chief Bailey left us.
Thank you. Chief Bailey had to leave due to another obligation, so I'm on my own.
Yes, sir. We think you're up to the challenge.
I think so, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The reason I come before you tonight is the town of Harrisburg came to the sheriff's office a number of months ago, approximately 18 months ago, requesting that we increase our number of officers in the town of Harrisburg underneath our contract to provide law enforcement services for the town of Harrisburg. They want to add 2 officers. When they originally did the request, we had a number of vacancies back then and just were not able to meet that demand to place 2 additional officers there. I'm happy to report we've made significant progress in that we've closed out applications for sheriff's office deputies. We are full. So with that in mind, we revisited back with the town of Harrisburg. They put in their budget, their 1920 budget, the full funding to pay for 2 additional officers, patrol vehicles, and associated equipment, consistent with the contract that we currently have with them. So my request tonight would be, in order to honor that request, the creation of 2 additional positions that would be fully funded by the town of Harrisburg. I'll be glad to answer any questions related to that.
Any questions? Well, congratulations on filling those vacancies and getting up to full speed. That's quite an accomplishment.
We're very excited.
Great. Okay, well then you're up next, Motorola contract for Sheriff's Office.
Yes, sir. Tonight, come asking for approval for the signing of the Motorola Edge contract. I have Travis McGee with me here tonight. So if you get very technical, Travis is going to save me. But the Motorola Edge contract consists of software and equipment that allows basically the radios located inside the 911 center to keep connectivity within the county if they lose connection to our master site in Charlotte. Currently, if there's a network communication interruption between the master site and Cabarrus County, the communication center all drop connection to the radio system inside the 911 center. The equipment is designed to allow a controller located inside Cabarrus County to keep connectivity to the radios until the original failure is corrected. My understanding is this is part 3 or phase 3 of a project that's been ongoing, and phase 1 and 2 have been completed. It's a total contract for $222,217. However, the county's part of that is $88,886.80. So in layman's terms, that's what it does. The radios out in the field still continue to operate.
Correct.
It's just that what we refer to as the consoles do not continue. So they have to fall back on using, I guess, a handheld radio to dispatch from, which is not a very reliable system. So this fixes that. That's what this contract does.
Great, okay. Questions, commissioners?
Just one, is this new money? Is it new money that come out of the general fund, or is this already funded?
Some of it's 911, some of it's general fund.
It's already funded as part of the CIP from the last couple of years.
Okay, so this is like, it was like a 3-phase deal, and
Yes,
this
sir.
is the 3rd phase of it, so the money's really basically there.
It's
Thanks.
there, yes.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, next up, 4.17, solid waste landfill revised Saturday operating hours. And Kevin Grant is back with us for that discussion.
And we actually have a non-recycling subject here. Currently, at our construction and demolition landfill up on Irish Potato Road, the Saturday operating hours are 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Landfill staff is recommending that we close the landfill area at 12 p.m. Revised hours would be 8 a.m. until 12 p.m. Now, when I mean the landfill area, it's back where you've got the construction and demolition waste that you're putting there. This does not include the residential trash, the recycling, and the yard waste area that we have at the front of the facility. Those items would remain open from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. There'd be no change. Just to give you a little background, on Saturdays, we average about 200 vehicles per day. Just to give you an idea, today we had 139 vehicles, and that's open from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. So we're very, very busy on Saturdays. The majority of the people that visit our landfill on Saturdays are coming to drop off residential waste or recycling. Over the past couple years, it's been about 78% of the total vehicles on Saturdays are coming for that. So what our staff is recommending, and part of the issue we have on Saturdays is when we get people coming in at one time, we get a big backup on Irish Potato Road in both directions. And we have received complaints from residents that they can't get through on Saturdays. So one quick fix that we'd like to at least explore and try would be to shut down the landfill portion at noontime And part of it is because that's your larger commercial trucks, people with trailers are going back there, dropping off their waste. They got to come back to the scale house and get reweighed so we can get their net weight so we can charge them accordingly. So that creates a little tie-up in the queue, so they got to jump back in. And then plus the length of the vehicle is taking up a lot more space in our driveway, and we have limited space, so that does create a backup. So like I said, that's one thing where staff is recommending that this might help, and we want to give that a shot. The other thing is that from 12 to 2, when we have our landfill heavy equipment operator in the back, he's now available to come up and assist with traffic flow and maybe even assist residents in terms of offloading whatever they may have so we can get them out and kind of make the process a lot more efficient. So that's kind of the background behind this. If you approve that, what we would do would be at least give about a month's notice. We would post signs at the scale house. We would also reach out to customers who have accounts with us to kind of give them a heads up of what we're going to do. So that way, in case these contractors do have loads that they want to get rid of so they can start with an empty trailer come Monday, we do give them from 8 a.m. until 12 to do that. And like I said, we typically get, I would say the actual count of people going to the back of the landfill is probably 30 to 35 vehicles on a Saturday. And so it's not a lot, and we do think that folks, once they realize on the time change, they can make an adjustment. We don't think it's that much of a hardship. If it's something that doesn't work out, we can always go back and add those 2 hours. But we'd like to at least give this a try in terms, like I said, for hopefully a little bit of a fix to alleviate some of the traffic concerns that we have. So, any questions?
Just a quick question, Kevin. Do you
Yes.
track where those residents are coming from? I guess
No, because the only thing we do just check to see if you're a Cabarrus County resident. We don't get into
Not what part of
specific,
the
I mean, we
county they're
could
coming
do
from.
it, but I don't have data that shows that.
We're trying to find, because it's backing up Irish Potato Road, so the locals, not just the locals, but those traveling through are trying to get through, and and maybe that's something we might need to look at, Kevin, is that, because it's the only convenience center we have. So is there a need for another one in another part of the county that would pull some of that traffic away and allow them? So, maybe something for the future. So.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is approval of our regular meeting agenda. Of course, you have that in front of you, and I think that includes setting two public hearings as well. Do I hear comments or questions?
Need to take off G4?
Okay, G4 is the property purchase request on Rankin Road,
Right.
which we have taken care of. Any other adjustments?
I did not see any others.
Okay, well then, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda, including 2 public hearings, with the removal of item G4. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. I'm sure that you're all very disappointed that we do not have need of a closed session tonight. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes, and we stand adjourned. Thank you all for joining us tonight.